and welcome to Ellough Park for round 3 of the Fab Racing British Minibike Championship. It's lovely conditions here today in Suffolk. My name is Lewis Ray, and joined with me in the commentary box this weekend is Ross McIntyre. Hi Ross, how are you today?
I'm doing absolutely brilliantly, thank you, Lewis. As you said, a lovely day outside. Although the sun's just taken a brief trip behind a cloud, it is beaming down here in this June summer day, and it is a perfect day for racing as well. Of course, we've got the race ones to bring you later from all of our Fab Racing classes, but for now we're just wrapping up the qualifyings currently out there with the Junior LC40 Elites.
Yeah, these are the final qualifying sessions to decide the all-important grid, because obviously, if you're new to Fab, welcome, thanks for joining us this weekend. We're here all weekend bringing you the best coverage that we can, and if you're new to Fab, it's your first time watching qualifying, it's slightly different to most championships. The qualifying positions, it will probably repeat this multiple times today, but the qualifying positions are your starting grid position for all 3 races, which just proves how important this session is that the riders are on, and it gets their mind and final checks on the bike ready for the first race today.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, no reverse grid races, no finish where you start, or start where you finish rather. It is where you finish in qualifying, and that is your position for all 3 races across the weekend. So, for example, Austin Johnson currently sat on top of the timing screens. He'll be potentially going from pole for all 3 races in this Junior LC40 Elite class. But as you said, Lewis, some of you may be new to Fab Racing, so why don't we fill those of you in who are new? Maybe some of you need a little bit of a reminder of what Fab Racing is. Well, Fab is the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship, and it's a part of the Dorna Road to MotoGP programme, and it is widely recognised as a gateway into the Honda British Talent Cup. This is where young riders come to start their motorcycle racing career. It is the best place for British talent to come through and start the rising up the ranks. I mean, we were awarded the Road to MotoGP accolade by Dorna in 2019 when over 60% of the British Talent Cup grid they came from here. They were Fab graduates. Of course, first formed back in 2004 as well. It's a fantastic opportunity for young riders to gain experience and insight into motorcycle racing from a young age, and they'll be looking to be the next big star, joining riders such as Scott Redding, Scott Ogden, Danny Kent all over MotoGP. We've had riders in WSBK as well, BSB, of course, a lot of the BSB boys. Some of them often come back as well. We'll be seeing a few familiar names from the British Superbikes Paddock here this weekend. And, some current examples of some hot shots. You've got riders like Casey O'Gorman and Eddie O'Shea off in the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup. O'Gorman and Johnny Garnett as well in European Talent Cup this season. So, you've got some very current names out there as well, and all of these have come through Fab. And it is it's a great championship to start the way. And, this is the top mini bike class for the younger riders. So we have 3 mini bike classes: the rookies, the pros, and then the elites. The elites on these liquid-cooled bikes. And this is the fastest that gets on before they step onto the GP-style machinery, the mini GPs. They'll be the first right out with the mini GP50 race one. That's the first race in a little while's time. We've got one more qualifying session to bring you after this one, and it's a bit different from this, shall we say. But for now, let's enjoy the last 30 seconds of this second qualifying for the LC40 Elites. Byron Johnson currently sitting on top. His brother Austin Johnson alongside him. It looks like it could be a Johnson front row for the LC40 Elites.
Yeah, it's a great qualifying session for both of them. Just 20 seconds left. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is the top mini moto class. It's where they learn their trade for the rest of their racing careers. It's where they learn how to ride a bike, mainly without having to worry about too much extra stuff like your clutch, your gears, power bands, everything like that. All they focus on is the riding style, as these bikes are just twist and go motorcycles. So you just simply twist the throttle and it goes. It's pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, that's checkered flag out now, so riders are setting their final laps, and I believe Byron Johnson has just went and topped the session over his brother Austin Johnson. So it's still a Johnson 1-2, but it's a slightly different order. And yeah, they're on fire, both Johnsons. Of course, Austin Johnson, slightly older, on the liquid cool motorcycle, and I believe Byron Johnson's still on the air cool motorcycle, so that's an incredible result from around the Ellough Park circuit.
Well, it is indeed. Byron Johnson on the air-cooled pros, the senior air-cooled category. I'm sure we can touch on the technical differences in a moment on those. He's leading the way. He got a clean sweep last time out. Planned out all 3 races. Meanwhile, on the LC40s, it's very much Austin leading the way. He's taken 2 wins out of 3 at both rounds that we've had so far this season, and he'll be wanting to pick off this round as well. Maybe get 2 out of 3, making a hat-trick of double wins of brace victories. But it is Byron Johnson who finishes this session on top. And of course, we'll let you know the finalised grid spots a little while later as the checkered flag comes out. We've got one more qualifying session following this, the senior mini motos, same bikes, bigger people on them, before we head into our races. Now, it's the perfect time to talk about where we are in the world here in Suffolk at Ellough Park, known as East Anglia's premier outdoor karting circuit, 1,100 metres, a very tough, very technical circuit. It's a very, very physical circuit. I mean, you can tell that just by looking out of our commentary box window. It's very fast. You know, you've got to be very physically fit to perform well around here. And there is the new layout as well, which we're not using this year, but potentially something for the future, which we could be interested in. And that is great to see as well. You can see that big banking just on the inside of that final section, and that's looking very impressive indeed. Dry weather all weekend as well to look forward to. Lovely and sunny in the low 20 degrees. A little bit windy today, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue for our riders. But that warm weather, that's something that I wanted to talk about straight away, because of course we've not been seeing it in the mini motos. They've been a little bit off their times, but we're here much earlier in the year than we usually are. We're usually here around about October time. This warmer weather, we've been seeing through the qualifying sessions and the practice sessions as well, for the bigger bikes, for the GPs, for the pit bikes. Some of them have been going a lot faster than their lap records. Of course, the lap records don't count until the race, but we could be seeing a fair few lap records getting smashed here today.
Yeah, I think we will. There's no doubt about it. It's perfect conditions, although it's slightly windy, which I do think that is why likes of the mini motos aren't up there. It's just with these windy conditions and the lighter riders and the lighter bikes, the wind affects them a lot more. Whether that be lean into a corner or a headwind, they have a lot less power to work with. And during the corners, if you get a gust of wind unexpectedly, it can set you up slightly, and yeah, that's completely ruins your lap time. So I think if the wind can die down, we'll certainly see the mini moto lap times come down. But yeah, you can just see in the Holden area right now, the senior mini motos waiting to head out for their final qualifying session. If you never watched senior mini motos, well, yeah, there's no words to explain it. It's on your screen right now. It's big riders, very, very small bikes. I mean, these bikes, they don't even reach their knee sliders, and yeah, they're great to watch. They produce great racing, and just like all of Fab, it's a great atmosphere. They're all friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is one of the the fantastic things about that we have at Fab Racing. It is such a family community within the paddock. Everyone all kind of camps together at the night either in their tents or in their cars or in their vans or whatever. Everyone's all helping each other out within their own classes and other classes as well. And with these senior riders as well, it's a way for a lot of them like to give back to the kids, and a lot of them like to help out the kids as well, and teach the kids the ropes of motorcycle racing. And the senior mini motors, as you said, some of the most ludicrous and crazy racing. I mean, look, I wouldn't fit on one of these. And you've got these guys out there, some of them are getting on a little bit, shall we say, and they're out there, they're still giving it their all, still whacking around and putting in some phenomenal lap times. And, these are fast little bikes. They are very, very quick. I mean, obviously, the senior mini motos, they can go quite fast. You have to be 14 and up, of course, to enter into the senior classes. If you want to stay on your mini moto wheels. You've got a 2-stroke air or a water-cooled 40cc. You can get a 4-stroke 90cc if you're feeling really brave to power you along. And these things can go fast. They go almost 50 miles an hour at full chat. I mean, I'm not quite sure with some of the bigger riders, or maybe with some of the smaller riders on who are younger, they might be hitting those speeds, but they are very, very fast machines.
Yeah, they certainly are, and they're so low to the ground. So on the mini moto, you're going to feel like you're doing almost double that. It's similar to if you go go-karting. If anyone's been go-karting, you're that low to the ground that you feel like you're going faster. And yeah, whenever you're riding these bikes, the only way to really ride them is just smack your knee on the floor, just no mechanical sympathy. And yeah, they're great fun, they produce great racing. And on your screen right now, we have Will Howard trying to get past some traffic, and one of the Birkins with Richard Holmes-Williams, who's tops the session actually currently with a 54.9. And fun fact about Richard Holmes-Williams, his nickname is the Tractor Boy. And, well, he's certainly not slow like a tractor because he is top of this session.
Indeed, he is. Richard Holmes-Williams turned up at one round last year, the final round at Clandau, and went away the weekend as the victor. Had the most points out of anybody at the end of the weekend. What I mean by that, of course, is 3 races in a weekend. You have your race winners, then you have your weekend winner, so to speak, the rider that comes away with the most points. And in that one round, 70 points. That's quite a margin. So Richard Holmes-Williams, he's a very talented rider when he does show up. And he's he was on top of the session. Matt Birkin's now just gone to the top with a 54.9 1:09.5. Very quick indeed, but still, as we said earlier, 1.5 seconds off of the lap record. So the mini motos, guys, unfortunately, if you're a mini moto fan, don't think we're going to be seeing many lap records falling today, even with these lovely conditions. It's all about the bigger bikes. And another thing as well is that the mini motors, because it's so warm, it might actually be too warm for them, because they've only got very, very small tyres, obviously. It almost could be too warm for that rubber. Just start overheating and overstimulating them. It could be causing real trouble for them out there.
Yeah, it can, and these conditions are something that I don't think many people have been expecting, because the first 2 rounds of Fab, we've also had great conditions. Obviously, it was snowing on the Thursday of the first round, but since then, it's just been bright sunshine. We've been so lucky, and it's 22 degrees right now, which is, yeah, we're not complaining until it gets too warm right now in the commentary box. So, yeah, everyone's going to enjoy it. Everyone's here. Everyone's having fun. That's what this is all about. That's what these riders especially are here about, because obviously the younger riders, they're here to make a name for themselves. They're here to try and progress up the ranks. But certainly the senior mini-motos, the majority of them are just here for fun. But it still attracts massive names, and some even from the British Superbike paddock, such as Holly Harris, who, as we know, returns pretty much every single round, because we're lucky enough for it not to clash with British Superbikes. So she returns, and she's able to give knowledge back to these younger riders, which we see consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Holly Harris is only one example of riders who come back after they've moved on to bigger and better things to further progress their career. You'll be seeing a few names this weekend and throughout the championship of riders. Another great thing about Fab is people they want to come back for more. They come and do their mini motos, their junior mini motos. They come and do the mini GPs, and then they move off to British Talent Cup. They move off to Red Bull Rookies, European Talent Cup, Junior GP, and the world of motorsport. But then if they've got an off weekend, they'll just come here and they'll be racing around here on a pit bike or in a mini moto in Holly Harris's case, because partly it's track time. Obviously you want to spend as much time on a racetrack as possible, riding different types of machinery, different types of track from what you're normally used to, because you want to just be honing your skills. But at the same time, it's just a way to catch up with old mates. It's a way to have fun, and it is just, it's a great experience. As I said, it's such a family community here at Fab, and everyone gets along so well, and especially these mini moto guys as well. They're always hanging out together, they're always having a great laugh, and it is really great to see. Currently, Josh Birkin sitting on the top of the timing sheets. Will Howarth P2, Matt Birkin in P3. 2 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in the final qualifying session of the day before we move on to our race ones. And well, who do you think is going to be on the top of the session come the end? The lap times, they've been tumbling throughout, but again, I'm still a little bit concerned about those tyres with all this weather, the sun beaming down on the circuit. It's quite warm a track surface. It is a very grippy track. You can tell that just by walking out there. They went on a little track. Well, just by running your foot across the surface, it is a very grippy track. It's a very new surface as well. But a lot of rubber being laid down by karts. Well, that's something you'll notice on the curbs, actually. If you just look, there's kind of black outlines on the curbs. The karts do lay down a lot of rubber here, but because it's so hot, these mini motors, I'm just not entirely sure how the tyres are going to run throughout the day, but we'll have to wait and see. Currently, Josh Birkin on provisional pole.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great track. It's the first time I've ever been here personally, and what shocked me is just how tight the track is. It's really, really tough and tight and twisty track for these riders. There's multiple hairpins, there's fast flowing corners, there's a slight bank section, there's literally every single thing you would want in a motorcycle racing track. There's chicanes, so it's one of these tracks that really produce close racing, because there's a bit of everything for everyone. And right now, even Josh Birkins and Will Howarth, 36 thousandths of a second separating them from the top. That just proves my point. There's nothing between them, because this track has a corner that can help to a rider's advantage, and it's perfect for motorcycle racing, really, because there's perfect opportunities to pass, there's perfect opportunities for slipstreaming, there's a decently long straight with such a long drive out the last corner. It's such a fast flowing last corner that leads into the front straight, allowing slipstream to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last corner, so-called the last corner, that's its actual name, not what we're just, christening it for the sake of the broadcast. It is very tricky. Coming out the corner with 4 Mini Rossi, if you make a mistake there, if you're too late on the power, run a bit wide, it really compromises you almost for the entire first section of the circuit. The opening, kind of sector and a half of this track, very, very fast. You've got to be very precise. The last half of the track is very, very tight. It's very, very tight, twisty, technical. 30 seconds left on the clock here for the final qualifying of the weekend. and it's currently Josh Birkin on provisional pole. But can anybody topple the Birkin brothers? Will Howard currently splitting the pair of them. Richard Holmes-Williams, Craig Ashall also up there, maybe having a look as we come round now. Checkered flag will be out shortly, and Josh Birkin still for the time being holding on, but who can change that? We'll have to wait and see as the checkered flag comes out around about now. There we go, session has ended. So that is it, the final laps for all of these riders. And can anybody try and do anything about Josh Birkin? It's a 53-second lap. It's not close enough to the lap record to be challenging it, but it's still very fast as the riders come round to cross the line for the last time. And it would seem to be that nobody quite has the pace at the moment to take Josh Birkin away from that top spot.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be able to do it. They really need to push down this final lap. But it's at the end of the session. It's been an 8-minute session. It's quite tough. Although these are just mini motos, they're having to squeeze into such a tight motorcycle and levers in a helmet, so it's been so warm. So perhaps they might just be slightly tired, but the checker flag's waving. Josh Birkin's look slightly happy there. I mean, you got pole position, you can't really complain too much for that. There's nothing more you can really do. But that is the end of our qualifying sessions, actually, and now we'll be heading into races just once all the bikes make their way into the pit lane.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, absolutely. There's only 3 bikes left to take the checker flag, but of course next up is the Mini GP50s, which I think you'll agree with me, Ross, there's something completely different from what we've just seen.
Yeah, exactly. This is getting onto the GP style bikes. Of course, if you're a hardcore Fab fan, if you've been with us for a long time, you'll know exactly what we mean. But if you're just joining us for the first time, or you're not quite familiar with Fab yet, well, the GP50s, they are the more junior of our 2 mini GP categories. This is where riders get their first taste of GP style machinery, and it is proper racing on proper bikes. These things are ludicrously fast for such young riders. Obviously 2-50cc engine. It's got 60% more power than the Mini Motos. It can go 80 miles an hour at full chat. Don't think we'll quite be hitting that here at Ellough Park. Not quite a long enough straight, unfortunately, but we'll be getting close enough. Of course, in the 50s class, you've got riders aged 9 to 15. Hydraulic front and rear brake discs. You've got a manual clutch, manual gearbox. It's all the bells and whistles of a proper Grand Prix racing bike. And, as we'll see shortly, the riders forming up on the dummy grid, I'm sure, as the senior mini motos come in from their final qualifying session. We will have 1 formation lap out here. So you see the riders head out onto the grid from the dummy grid. You get 1 formation lap. And then again, if this is your first time with us, the start sequence is the red lights come on and the red lights go off, and then we go racing, just like any other motorcycle series on the planet. And, this first race, 11 laps for these young riders, many of them just trying to get their start really on GP. Some of them seasoned veterans. We've got a few riders hanging on who had the Mini GP50s to enjoy last year. Some riders on it for their first time this year as well. So it's a really good mix. So you've got some more seasoned kind of Grand Prix races here, and you've got some kind of more junior ones just trying to get the feel of a Grand Prix style bike.
Yeah, they certainly are. And riders now are really just trying to get in the mindset as this is the first race of the weekend. So it's going to be something completely different from them. Some people, maybe the first time ever racing at Ellough Park, so they may not know really what line they want to take into turn 1 and where they want to brake, because obviously all weekend they've been coming to turn 1 flat out. Well, this time they're halfway down the straight before they even start going, so your braking marker completely changes, and sometimes it can catch out people. But we're just waiting in the holding area. You can see all the riders on your screen. And I just seen actually Frankie Watson doing a practice start in the holding area, so it's a great way just to find your biting point, find about where you want the revs to be, so whenever you go to the lights there's a lot less to think about and worry about. It puts your mind at ease. But the riders are just waiting to get out right now. The tension will certainly be rising, the nerves will certainly be rising, and yeah, last round in the Mini GP50s, it was close racing. Every single race, there was nothing between them. It went down to the last lap, sometimes even the last corner. So hopefully we can see something like that again. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a track that really caters to close racing. There are lots of overtaking spots. Yes, it's fast, but there's lots of heavy braking zones, lots of places you can dive down the inside of other riders. So it's really important that these guys, obviously they want to be doing well in qualifying. Obviously they want to get a good start, but it's not all doom and gloom if it doesn't go quite their way. There is plenty of opportunity for them to make the overtakes. And of course,
this is the place you want to be if you want to have plenty of opportunities in the future as well as a rider. This is the place to start your Grand Prix racing career on a motorcycle in the Mini GP50s here at Fab Racing, and that's what we're seeing from many of these riders. And one of those riders I've got my eye on in this race, Lewis, if I'm being a bit of a stats nerd, is Arch O'Brien, because following the pattern of this season so far, Arch O'Brien in theory should sweep all 3 races. Now there is reasons to my madness. The way that it's worked is that we've had the same 3 riders on the podium each time, but they've kind of rotated their way up. So Arch O'Brien at round 1 was 3rd 3 times. In round 2, he was 2nd 3 times. So in theory, he should win all 3 races. Now, the chances of that actually happening, well, I'm not going to say anything, but it is a very real possibility. I mean, that young man, he's a double-time champion from last year in the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites. This wasn't the happiest of hunting ground from last year, to be fair. I know he struggled a bit on the Elites. The Elite bike wasn't the nicest to him mechanically all season. However, that young man, we know he can ride. He's with the Vision Track Racing Academy this year as well, and you'll see him decked out on his new bike. We know he's very, very fast. We'll have to see what he's capable. Of course, he's got to deal with the formidable Marco Holt, the formidable Bill Harris as well. Those 3 guys have been absolutely phenomenal all season. Luke Fitcher as well as a force to be reckoned with, I reckon, coming into this race. You've got a lot of riders up there in this GP50s championship who could really perform very well.
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, this track also could cater to someone maybe like Luke Fitcher, who, as we've seen last round, he's an absolute demon when it comes to defending. He's so good at defending, so he may be able to just get out the front and make sure nobody can get past him. But the riders are still waiting in the holding area right now. That's just because final tricks are getting made on the grid. And the thing about these bikes, these are 2-strokes, so they don't like being run too hot, and they like air going into them, so we're just waiting still to get underway. This will not be helping some of the riders, as they were already nervous enough. But I believe it's Harley Baker just trying to get his bike running again. Maybe he stopped it to stop it getting too hot. So hopefully they can get that restarted in time for the start of this race, which of course, as we mentioned, is the first race of the day. It's the first race for the Mini GP50s and the whole Fab Racing Championship. They've not raced here in about 8 months, so some of these riders will be able just to cast their minds back, like Marco Holt, and just think about what happened last time here at Ellough Park and try to repeat it.
Yeah, exactly. Marco Holt at Ellough Park last year, again a 2nd overall from the weekend, so a pretty happy hunting ground. He's going from pole position today, but it's very, very close between himself and Arch O'Brien in P2. Looking at 400ths of a second separating those top 2, so it's very, very tight. Of course, it is currently Marco Holt leading the championship this year. He's got 12 points on Luke Fitch in P2, Arch O'Brien 15 points back in P3. Of course, Marco's had, as per the pattern, as I said, he's had 3 second places in round 1 and 3 first places in round 2. So in theory, he should be finishing in 3rd 3 times this weekend. There we go, the drivers heading out onto the grid. The marshals all there, and we're all ready and set to go as we sit back and relax and enjoy the show. It's the first race of the weekend. It's the first race for Fab Racing here at Ellough Park in 2022. And as all of the riders try and get going, I can see a few riders struggling to make their way out of the dummy grid, but it seems like we're all going now and that make their way onto the starting grid. And as I said earlier, 1 formation lap, and then it's lights on, lights off, and we go racing for the first time this weekend.
Yeah, we do, and all riders now, they'll be waiting on the dummy grid a little bit longer before they head out on the warm-up lap, so it's going to be even more to their nerves and even more mentally to overcome before the start of the race. But now all riders have joined them for the start of this race and for the start of their warm-up lap. And, well, it's not the biggest grid in the Mini GP50s, but as we've seen, it produces some awesome racing. It does, and it's a grid full of talent as well, and talent is what Marco Holt is, going from the pole position. Alongside him, Arch O'Brien, who you can see on your screen now, the number 91, he goes from P2. Bill Harris starts from P3, and Luke Fitchett, he starts from P4. He was a rider who took all the wins early on in this championship. Byron Johnson is P5 with Frankie Watson in 6th, and then rounding out the grid, we've got Harley Baker in 7th and Bailey Lawrence in P8. That is your grid for the Mini GP50s, and of course that is your grid for the whole weekend as well. There is no changing to your starting positions, and there is the man going from P2, the double champion from last year, Arch O'Brien, on his newly Vision tracked up bike. Of course, Archie, part of the Vision Track Academy, which is starting to play an even bigger role here in Fab with each passing weekend. You'll be seeing more of them in the 70s as well later on.
It's Archie O'Brien with the Spider-Man helmet and the Vision Track bike, the number 91 going off P2, but Marco Holt in the Minions helmet. Some very recognisable helmets out there in the 50s class. Some very popular characters, clearly being enjoyed by the riders. He's going from pole position for the first race of the weekend, and now it's all about just making sure you get absolutely perfect reactions, hit everything absolutely perfect. The nerves will be rising in the riders and under the helmets. Obviously you can imagine because you've done some races yourself, but myself, I can only imagine what must be going through a young rider's head right now as we wait for the lights.
Yeah, we're waiting for the lights to go out. Every rider now, revs are rising, lights are on, the lights are out, and we go racing here for the first race of the weekend at Ellough Park, and Marco Holt leads the way from Luke Fitchett. It's an excellent start from Marco Holt. Luke Fitchett, though, will not let him go anywhere, but a great start by Harley Baker, who is into third place. Can he get his first podium of the season?
Well, not quite the start that Archie O'Brien wanted, I don't think. The bike just bogging down from P2, but Marco Holt just streaking away already. That is a big gap already that he's got on Bill Harris in P2, I believe it is. So Marco Holt leading the way as they squeeze through, coming to the back end of the set. And Marco Holt is absolutely bolted already. I cannot believe, as he heads through the Wones hairpin and through Mini Rossi, the final real corner, and coming through, we'll be seeing the gaps now as they come across the line. So Marco Holt leads the first lap of the weekend for Fab Racing and the Mini GP 50s, and he has got a huge gap ahead of him already. And there we go, Marco Holt, and there we see further back as well, we're seeing riders like Luke Fitchett in P2, Archie O'Brien, who's already managed to squeeze his way up to P3. He was P6 at the end of turn 1, so he's already cutting his way back through, but he's made it very difficult for himself if he wants to challenge Marco Holt. The gap is already massive between himself and Luke Fitchett.
Yeah, it is up to 2.5 seconds. That is an incredible start there. But Marco Holt is going to be wanting to try and keep his advantage and keep cool. But right now it's Luke Fitchett, as I mentioned, an absolute demon when it comes to defending, and Archie O'Brien just behind him. But Archie O'Brien is looking to get past him, but once again, just like last round, Luke Fitchett is making Archie O'Brien's life so difficult. And Archie O'Brien, I believe, has missed the gear and just got out of the power band just slightly, so that leaves him all the way down 4th place now. That is not what he will be wanting. It's put Brian Johnson in 3rd place.
What if Archie O'Brien's having issues with the bike? Because after that bad start as well, so maybe potentially a clutch problem or something along those lines for Archie O'Brien. Of course, these Mini GP 50s, they've got a 6-speed gearbox, all the bells and whistles of a GP bike. He's looking to the outside of Bill Harris, but unable to make a move. Byron Johnson, apologies, not Bill Harris, trying to make a move that just cannot find a way through so far. We know that Archie O'Brien perhaps hasn't spent as much time on this bike looking to the inside into the Wones hairpin. I know he didn't spend that much time on this bike over the winter. This is his first season in the 50s, his first season on a bigger Grand Prix style bike. And I know that it perhaps wasn't as much time as he'd have liked, so it's every race still developing, still going on there. You can see him on his screen, 6.34 seconds is the gap to the leader right now. Archie O'Brien, of course, as part of that Vision Track Academy team, but just unable to make his way through Byron Johnson, unable to make his way through Luke Fitchett in front. Once again, it's a defensive masterclass from Luke Fitchett, who's still got a long old way to go. 8 laps to go in this race, and already Archie O'Brien is starting to feel the heat of the Suffolk sun, unable to make his way through. Beautifully withstanding the pressure is Byron Johnson in P3. Can O'Brien make it onto the podium? He's looked once before coming into the Wones hairpin. Does he look again? No. Maybe it's time to try and set a move up into turn 1. Let's follow him around and gets a very good exit out of that corner. Gets a great entry into Mini Rossi as well. Last real corner, and then coming round, and this sets him right up as he comes round the final bend, coming into turn 1, looks to the outside, unable to make the gap here. He's going to have to stick with P4 for the time being.
Yeah, he's really struggling to get past Byron Johnson. He's trying absolutely every single thing he can, and there's just 7 laps to go in this race. These races go by so quick, and the thing is, Archie O'Brien he may start to get flustered and start making mistakes, maybe missing a braking marker here, trying to get the throttle a bit too early and running slightly wide. So it's so important to keep your cool whenever it's so hard to get past this tight twisted track. But Archie O'Brien has made the move on Byron Johnson. He's up in third place, and now he's got Luke Fitchett directly in front of him. But once again, it's been so hard to get past Luke Fitchett. Archie O'Brien is seeing Marco Holt disappear in the distance. The gap's massive already. So Marco Holt is absolutely off, and Archie O'Brien is looking to make a move at turn 1, but can he do it? No, he can't. And in fact, he gets passed by Byron Johnson, but he's trying to fight back around the outside onto the curb. Byron Johnson's down the inside, and he makes it into third place. This is not what Archie O'Brien wanted.
It isn't, and Marco Holt bolting into the distance isn't helped by him setting new lap records of 50.254. It's not taking him long, and already tumbling goes the times. Marco Holt, a lap record holder here. Ellough Park is a lap record holder at Lid as well this season, so it's great to see these times dropping so much. Marco Holt, though, bolting into this, since he is almost in the class of his own at the moment, so far ahead. Luke Fitcher, 8 seconds of the gap back to P2. Luke Fitcher, who is again putting in a stoic defensive ride and is just doing his thing, absorbing all of that pressure that he's getting from Archie O'Brien right now, doing a spectacular job, just sitting there comfortably taking the pressure and not taking anything from the double champion. Oh, and Archie O'Brien runs wide again through turn 1, and that, once again, Byron Johnson slides through, and Byron Johnson actually looking to challenge Fitchett now. So there we go, Archie O'Brien and Luke Fitchett swapping places, and or Byron Johnson and Archie O'Brien, and Luke Fitchett as, oh, that's O'Brien running wide again, extending a little bit of track limits, but he sweeps around the outside behind. So Archie O'Brien gets back through, but that was a bit naughty on the track limits. Don't think Byron Johnson will be entirely happy with that situation, and Luke Fitchett still somehow in P2 after all of this pressure. And look at that again, Archie O'Brien poking a nose up the inside, but just unable to make the gap here. And there goes. Is that through with Johnson? I think it isn't. Oh, unfortunately it's not, but it was a really good attempt up the inside anyway. O'Brien just able to hang it around the outside, and while these guys are fighting, Marco Holt is just shooting off up the road again. I mean, the gap's now 10 seconds back to Luke Fitchett. It is absolutely massive, but this battle for second place is nowhere near over yet. Fitchett from O'Brien, from Johnson, all trying to get that second step on the podium, and it could end in tears, but for now, O'Brien's still putting the pressure on. Look how much speed he's carrying into that back section. The elevation change, he's poking up the inside, he gets through. Beautiful move there by Archie O'Brien, and it leaves Fitchett out in the dust as well. Johnson also sliding through, and actually I think that may be, is it because Luke Fitchett? No, Luke Fitchett hasn't pulled into the pits, apologies. He's just lost so much time after getting shoved out wide, getting run out of road, and it's now O'Brien and Johnson squeezing through, and Fitchett left out in the dust, P4.
Yeah, that Luke Fitchett ran slightly wide, and it just got a bike out the power band, and whenever two strokes out of power band, they are extremely difficult to get back in. These bikes, they almost have no power below a certain amount of RPM, and then all the power's at top range, so it just shows of how important it is to ride these bikes fast and clean throughout the corners, which O'Brien has done perfectly and piled on the pressure to force Luke Fitchett into that mistake. But now Archie O'Brien, he's made a gap from Byron Johnson with just 3 laps to go in this race. Can he catch up to Marco Holt? Some would say it's near impossible. He's going to need a miracle. He's going to need a mistake from Holt or something along that lines, because it's such a big gap. Marco Holt has just ran his own race and got the new lap record with it. It's been absolute perfect from it. It's been a masterclass, in fact. But as you can see on your screens right now, Archie O'Brien with the iconic Spider-Man helmet, of course a 2-time champion last year. He was perfect last year. He finally made the step up onto this class, and straight away he's been on the pace. Obviously the first round was won by Luke Fitchett, but it just doesn't look like Fitchett has the pace for this round. But he made life very, very difficult for Archie O'Brien, because it's one thing catching up to someone, it's another thing passing them at this track. And just 2 laps to go in this race, the time is ticking down. Marco Holt still up front as Archie O'Brien approaches the back marker. I believe that's Bailey Lawrence on their 09 bike, and he gets past without any issue. Bailey Lawrence just sticking to her own line, doing what the back markers really should do in that situation, just stick to your own line, let the faster guy get through. But we are on the last lap now. Marco Holt still leads the way with Archie O'Brien in second, and Byron Johnson making his return to the Mini GP 50 class in third. He'll be absolutely delighted to get a podium in his first ever race, and it'll set him up perfectly for race 2. But it's the last lap. The man who has been absolutely perfect in this race, who's not made one mistake, and that is Marco Holt. He's rode perfect, he's done the lap times, he's just not got bothered by anyone. Straight from the start, just ran his own thing and did perfect. But here he is on your screen, Marco Holt, going through the final sector before he heads around the final corner, the fast flowing final corner, to go over the line to take the race win. Then he's bouncing with joy. Marco Holt, an absolute dominant performance, and Archie O'Brien coming home in second place. I'm wondering what could have been with that race, and Byron Johnson taking a third, and what a superb return to this class.
Agreed, a great performance by Byron Johnson, but kudos to Marco Holt, another dominant victory in the Mini GP 50 class. You can see, I mean, it's another race win for Marco Holt. He's got them by the dozens. You can see just how much it means to him every single time. A fantastic performance. Yes, of course, O'Brien had those struggles in the opening few laps, but he just put his head down, ran his own race, and he was 10 to 11 seconds ahead at the end. A huge gap, and a very dominant performance. That is Marco Holt stamping his authority on Ellough Park on the weekend already, with a new lap record as well of 50.254. That is the first time that we're into the 50.2s here for a Mini GP 50. There you see your race winner, Marco Holt. A brilliant performance, and well, he'll be looking to extend his championship lead a bit further after all of the work that he's done so far. 3 second place in round 1, 3 wins in round 2, leading the championship, trying to extend it there and stamp his authority and make a claim. He's getting in the mindset of the other riders already. I mean, you won't think about it that much as if you're at home, but for the riders out there, that is Marco Holt going, yeah, this is my turn now, this is going to be my weekend, and I don't care what you say. Such a dominant performance, and that is a brilliant job.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, there was nothing anyone really could have done there. It was very similar actually to Fabio Quartararo's win at Catalonia last week. Straight from the start, he got in the lead and he just ran away with it and just kept a gap in such hot conditions. He played it absolutely perfect, and there's nothing more that he could have done that race. I mean, he didn't make one mistake.
And now, moving on, it is time for race 1 for the Extreme 200 class. The Extreme 200, it's a bit of a mix-up, really. You get lots of different bikes out there. You get some pit bike style machines, you get some Grand Prix style machines. But either way, it's very exciting racing. You've got some familiar names returning to the Fab Paddock as well, right up the front of the grid. Philip Soroviak, Sullivan Mounsey, for example, both of these guys. Fab favourites, I think is the term I'd use. Of course, Philip was third in last season's Mini GP 70 championship. Starting on the front row. And you got some really big names on this grid. I mean, it's not the largest grid that we've got today, and it's not always the closest in the extremes. You tend to kind of get almost splinter away groups of battles going on instead of one large battle like you sometimes get in the other categories. But it's it's very, very fast, very, very noisy, and very, very fun as well. And you get a lot of riders turning up for this category. It's kind of a I'd almost put it as kind of a throw it all in together and see what works. It's kind of the pit bike extreme is one of the ways I've heard that it's described. It's where the name Extreme 200 comes from. But it's like you get the pit bikes, you get a bit more out of them, and then you throw some Grand Prix bikes on top of the pile as well, and then you've got the Extreme 200 category, and it is just crazy racing. They're forming up on the dummy grid now. There you can see them, a few of the riders heading out onto the grid, and well, again, I'm sure this is going to be another very exciting race for the Extreme 200s.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, the top 4 riders actually have all at some point been in the British Talent Cup Championship, so it's just a proving ground, and it proves our point. These riders always come back to this championship usually, and they come back and teach them all and still run at the front. Obviously, on pole position for this race will be Sullivan Mounsey with a 48.5, and then Philip Soroviak second place, rounding off the front row of the grid. Both riders, of course, racing in the British Talent Cup. Bailey Stewart Campbell, another British Talent Cup rider, in third, and Rossi Banham, ex-British Talent Cup rider, in fourth. Zach Tureen in fifth, and David Ferns making his return in sixth place. Of course, he missed last round at Clandau. Chris Wells in seventh place, and James Dutton in eighth. Noah Gilray, also Mini GP 70 rider, will be starting in 9th, with Mark Evans in 10th, Jack Andrews 11th, and Martin in 12th, and Lee Thomas in 13th and Owen Thomas in 14th. Sean Whittaker in 15th, Harrison McKay in 16th, Sam Smithson in 17th, Daniel Gilbert in 18th, Clayton Edmonds in 19th, and Ben Rigdwell in 20th. And running off the grid will be Adam Redden.
Well, there we go, a very big grid here in the Extreme 200. It's a class where you get a lot of riders come and go. A lot of these riders are off doing BSB, for example, and off, with their paddock. So it is one where, it's not a very consistent grid. So you're going to have to take it on a race-by-race basis. I mean, perfect example last year, Casey O'Gorman showed up for 2 rounds and came second in the championship by 8 points. This is against people who had done the entire season. You get riders come and go, you get riders show up and dominate, you get, riders do the whole season and just in it for the consistency kind of factor. So it's kind of, you got to take this one on a race-by-race basis. Going off that front row, Filip Sorowiak, I think, on the front row, has been visually just watching across the weekend, with my own eyes. He's been the rider that's been impressing me the most. First of all, because I can see the development that he's had from the British Talent Cup already. As a rider, I can already tell he's so much better than he was last year in the 70s, and he was already an exceptional rider at that stage. The way that he is getting into the corners, getting down, getting off the bike as well, it is almost shocking how quickly that progress has come across, and I think he's a real force to be reckoned with. Of course, Sullivan Mounds, though, on that GP style bike, he's going to be a tough nut to beat in this race. And of course, Bailey Stewart Campbell and Rossi Banham as well behind in the second row. Those two, again, some formidable riders in this championship. So I think we're going to have to wait and see what's going to happen this one. It could be very, very close. And it is, Lewis, as I always say, it's one of those ones where anything can and anything does happen.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, they are perfect. It's the perfect conditions for racing, and this should be a great race. The lap time's been close all weekend between Sullivan Mountain and Filip Sorowiak, and yeah, I'm expecting a really, really close race, and it's a completely different style of machines on the front row actually. Sullivan Mountain is on a Moto 4 type of bike, while Filip Sorowiak is on a 2-stroke Supermoto 85cc bike, so it's completely different. And obviously, as we mentioned, the top 4 riders have all came through the British Talent Cup programme, so it's just a testimony to how great the series is and how great Fab is for these riders to return.
Yeah, absolutely. Filip Sorowiak in P2, currently leading the Extreme 200 Championships after sweeping the last round at Clandau. What can he do as the last of the riders pull up onto the grid? Here we go as we wait for those lights that we all know and love. It's lights on! Lights off, we're underway in the Extreme 200s. A great start further back, but leading into turn 1, it's going to be Filip Sorowiak on the inside. No, Sullivan Moundsey sweeps around the outside and manages to maintain that lead. Bailey Stewart Campbell holds on to P3 as well. Rossi Banham still in P4, but Filip Sorowiak was a great start. Sullivan Moundsey, a very smart move to maintain the lead into turn 1, but getting all sorts of sideways on the brakes. Coming into the hairpin is Sullivan Moundsey, but still maintaining that lead. The Holmes hairpin could have been the end of his race if he'd have been pushing a little bit harder. Of course, these tyres very, very warm, very, very sticky out there, but these bikes do bite back. They're not easy machines to ride. Filip Sorowiak, though, these front two starting to pull a little bit of a gap already. The two behind them also starting to pull a gap on the rest of the pack. Some moves being made into the last corner by a few riders, but it will be Sullivan Moundsey that leads the first lap of the first race of the Extreme 200s. Filip Sorowiak, though, in a very close tow. And as we head onto the second lap, it's Moundsey from Sorowiak, from Stuart Campbell from Banham, your top 4.
Yeah, it's a great start there from Sullivan Moundsey, and it was a great save as well. The bike was making all sorts and shapes, and there it is again. He likes the bike moving about. I mean, I seen a save earlier. I seen a picture from free practice, and I believe it was Dave Baldwin who took the photo, so I would recommend going out to see his save. The bike was up in the air. It was at its completely different angle from what it should be, and somehow he kept on it and then took pole position. He's a great rider, British Talent Cup rider, and another rider that actually mentions James Dutton. He previously has raced in the Junior Super Sport Championship on a Honda actually, so he's definitely out for a good weekend. I don't believe he's been at Fab for a little while now, but it's Sullivan Moundsey who still leads the way from Filip Sorowiak. Filip Sorowiak on your screen right now. He's perfect riding style, putting his knees flat on the floor and just pushing as hard as he can. But it's Bailey Stewart Campbell, and Filip Sorowiak is down on the deck. He's threw away the race win Filip Soroviak, he's no hurry to pick up that bike, but the Moto4 bike is down on the deck. That puts Filip Soroviak in the lead by a mile right now. Sullivan Mountsey is through it down the road from his own mistake. We've seen that start a race just how hard he was pushing, but it's finally bit back. The bike has said no, but now he's remounting on the bike, and there's your race leader now, Filip Soroviak and Sullivan Mountsey. Yeah, he will not be happy about that, but right now it's just trying to pick up some points and trying to see where he will finish this race from.
That's after he set the fastest lap of the race as well, so a big shame there for Sullivan and Mountsey. And again, as I was saying, that just shows how easy it is to lose these things. These bikes are very, very technical. They're very hard to ride. But Filip Soroviak, well, he's got 2 and a bit seconds back to Bailey Stewart Campbell, who's putting up a stoic defence against Rossi Banham. But yeah, what a shame there for Sullivan Mountsey, but that's motorsport. Sometimes it doesn't go your way, sometimes mistakes happen, and accidents are inevitable no matter what. You're never going to go your entire career without an accident, as Lewis will happily tell you about 2 weeks ago. But as he comes around the final corner with 8 to go, it is Filip Soroviak leading the way, of course, 3rd last season in the MotoGP Mini GP 70s class that we have here. Also racing in the British Talent Cup this season. He is a hotshot young talent who, as I said, is visually better. You can see how much he's improved since last year, and he's putting that on show now with a fantastic performance. Almost 3 seconds of the gap back to Stuart Campbell, who's still putting up that defence to Rossi Banham in 3rd. And then further back as well, James Dutton in P4, Zach Torian in P5 as well. They're still managing to hold on to each other. David Burns in P6 and Jack Andrews, a formidable rider in this Extreme 200 class. He was champion last year. He's in P7, a little way back, so he's got a little bit of work to do. But it is still Soroviak leading the way. He hasn't got his bright blue hair anymore, but he's still got his bright blue bike, and it is streaking away at the front. Further back in the back, we've got some action coming into the final corner as well. Bit of defensive riding going on there as these two put each other under some big pressure, put each other under a big attack. And as they're coming round, Chris Wells and Mark Evans, I believe this is, that we're watching. And there is Jack Andrews as well. As you're seeing coming around now, Jack Andrews in P7, still defending from the riders behind. Here's Jack. Again, as I said, a old and familiar face here in the Fab Paddock. He's done a lot in this Extreme 200 class, but not the best qualifying. He would have wanted a little bit better than that, but he's come forward in the race so far. So he's going well. Still got 7 laps as well to come forward. So it's not all doom and gloom. But of course, that is where the qualifying form that we use here in Fab, it really can hurt you. Even if you're really, really good at a track, as we're seeing Jack Andrews, he's doing a great job here at Ellough. If you qualify out of place, if you have a poor qualifying, it can really hurt you for all 3 races. And if you're fighting for a championship as well, it can mean drastic results.
Yeah, it certainly can. And Filip Soroviak he started in the front row of the grid, now he's leading, so he's done exactly what he wants to do. But just quick update, Sullivan Mountsey is up to 12th. Whenever he remounted on his motorcycle, he was down to 19th. So right now, he's doing a superb job at just trying to scrape some points and just trying to help his championship hopes. As of course, some riders disappear through some rounds. David Ferns is back this round. He got a podium at the first round at Lid, and he's up in 6th right now, so I would definitely not count him out. Bailey Stewart Campbell, of course, first round this season, and in 2nd place, got on the podium in your first round at Fab. So I don't think you can be too upset with that. Bailey Stewart Campbell, of course, British Talent Cup rider, got a podium a couple of weeks ago in one of the best got 4th place in one of the best British Talent Cup races I've ever seen. But Sullivan Mountsey has just set the fastest lap of the race. He's pushing as hard as he can with a 48.6. That's an incredible lap time no matter what.
And it's closing in on the lap record set by Casey O'Gorman here last year. Casey came in his first entry into Fab Racing last season, his one of 2 entries, and he swept the weekend with 3 wins. Oh, he's such a mercurial talent, isn't he? Again, I'd love to talk about that British Talent Cup race. Oh my goodness me. Bailey Stewart Campbell, again, Well, the obvious highlight was the tie for the win, which I don't think I've ever seen before or will ever see since. Bailey Stewart-Campbell coming on P4 was a great story. She put in a massive performance that weekend, and it was really great to see her enjoying such success and such good results. What is really almost the pinnacle of junior riding in Britain. That is where you really make your name. Of course, this is where you learn to ride the bike. This is where you kind of start out and you get used to the mini motors, you get used to the GP machinery, and then moving on to the British Talent Cup, that's where you're really sorting the wheat from the chaff. And of course, here at Fab Racing, this is the place to be if you want to get into the British Talent Cup. Over 60% of the British Talent Cup field year on year comes from Fab Racing. Again, a huge number this season are all Fab Racing graduates, and that is great to see. These young talents still going through. There is Sullivan Mounsey in P11, another fastest lap for him of 48.4. He's getting a little bit closer to that lap record. I'm sure Casey O'Gorman, watching along at the FIM Junior GP Championship, I'm sure he's getting a little bit nervous because his lap record at Ellough Park potentially under threat by a remounted Sullivan Mounsey. But Philip Sorowiak still shooting away at the front with 3 laps to go. He's got 5 seconds back to Bailey Stewart-Campbell, who's pulled a bit of a gap on Rossi Banham. And it's all about now, just make sure you stay on the bike, bringing the bike to the end of the race, keeping it in good condition. Even though Sullivan Mounsey's gone down, he can still sense that there is a result on the line. He's up to P10 and he's coming round. He's setting fastest lap after fastest lap as he comes through the tight and twisty final sector into the Wones hairpin, the final tight hairpin. And we've got Mini Rossi, essentially the last corner, followed by that big right sweeper known as last corner, genuinely. Comes to the line now. It's been 2 fastest laps before. Is the fastest lap this time? No, it's not. It's still a very, very good lap in the 48. Sullivan Mounsey with 2 to go is showing us what he could have done if he'd stayed on the bike.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, he's up into 8th place now, just got past Chris Wells, and just 2 laps to go. Will he get any further? Will he almost get a top 10? This is an incredible story that is developing right now. You can see another rider in front of him, and you can see blood. That is Jack Andrews just in front of him. He's going to push as hard as he can on this final lap of the race. He's set multiple fastest laps, although he may have crashed. It's not affected his confidence, and that is what makes these riders so great as he dives down the inside of Jack Andrews. Can Jack Andrews get the undercut? He's trying to, but then Sullivan Mounsey's up the inside once again and coming round to the final corner. And yeah, he got past Jack Andrews perfectly there, and he heads onto the last lap now and almost makes contact there with the bike.
Yeah, it was a lovely move there by Sullivan Mounsey, shutting the door on Jack Andrews as he, there we go, sets the fastest lap of the race. But it is the last lap, and rounding the final corners now is the man who was dominated following Mounsey's coming off the bike. It will be Philip Sorowiak who wins here race 1 of the Extreme 200 in Ellough Park. You see a rider there conking out and pulling over to the side of the road. The number 61 bike of Harrison McKay. That's not how he would have wanted his race to end, but it is Philip Sorowiak. Sublime performance as he comes home to take a dominant victory and extend his championship lead in the Extreme 200 class. Great stuff. Bailey Stewart-Campbell finishes a fantastic P2, but some 5 seconds back. Rossi Banham backed off in the end. I think he was on mission, bring the bike home. I know he's been struggling with his bikes this weekend, had a few mechanical issues all over the shop. So to see him bring it home in P3 is great to see, and great to see reliability not playing its part this time out, at least anyway, as that is the Extreme 200 race 1 done, and it is Philip Sorowiak taking another brilliant win and extending his Talent Cup lead. Talent Cup? Extreme 200 lead. There we go. The Talent Cup rider extends his Extreme 200 lead.
Yeah, it was a great race run, just dominant performance once again, but it really is going to leave us wondering for race 2 tomorrow what Sullivan Mounsey can do, because that was in some incredible lap times, and he finished in 7th place in the end, which is an incredible result considering he dropped down to 19th a quarter way into the race. So what can he do tomorrow? We're just going to have to wait and find out. But it's also a great result from Rossi Banham, who of course is actually on a pit bike 140, so he's using the same bike for 2 classes, which really makes his reliability issues and his carburetor issues slightly worse, because it's got to last 6 races this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a rough occasion, shall we say, for Rossi Banham. But of course, you'll be seeing him back out in that pit bike a little bit later on for Pit Bike 140 race 1. Of course, you'll be seeing all of these riders tomorrow for our races 2 and 3, bringing you all of the action from Ellough Park. And of course, thank you for joining us here for round 3 of the Fab Racing British Minibike Championship. And wherever you are around the world, it's a pleasure to have you along with us.
Yeah, but next up we have the AC40 Rookies, and this class is where the riders start their racing careers. There's some new riders this weekend, and it's where they learn their trade and learn, well, how to race a bike really, and what to do when you're racing a motorcycle, and how to set faster lap times. And it's the start of friendships as well, because there's a lot of friendships in this paddock, and some of these riders will, I can almost guarantee you, will go on to race with each other all the way up through the ranks, such as British Talent Cup. They just develop a friendship, and they're going through the same age range and then just the same championships and Fab works. I mean, it's perfect, and it's these types of classes which really are the start of these people's careers and at the start of fresh talent. And we've seen some great talents this year: Taylor Tomlinson, Sebastian Gieslowski. There's been some amazing races and some close races as well. And the racecraft, I think you'll agree with me here, Ross, but the racecraft with these 6-7-year-old riders is something else. And the fact that they're doing up to 45 mile per hour at 6-year-old is just, well, it's crazy.
Oh no, it is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I really don't know how to put it any better. You know, these riders, a lot of them, this is their first racing experience. It's they're coming in, to Fab Racing. Many of them, they've done time on the bike, they've learned how to ride and whatnot, but they've never actually been in a race. To get out there and just throw yourself in the deep end in such a competitive field as well that we see year on year here in the rookies. It is fantastic to see it. Of course, this is the start of a racing career that you get to watch, and it's wonderful to watch these young riders get out there and learn, showcase their talents and show what they can do, but as well, it's a way to see maybe who the next thing is. Obviously the entirety of Fab is part of it, is who's going to be who moving on and moving up in the world of motorcycle racing. This is the very beginning of that. And as you said, Taylor Tomlinson, and a few of these drivers as well. You've got Seth Hayward is one that comes to mind. These guys out there, that this is the beginning of their racing careers, potentially for them quite a successful racing career. Taylor Tomlinson especially, he has been absolutely superb this season so far. Really strong performances all throughout the year, and he's doing really well. He swept the first round at Lid. He took 2 wins and a second place at Glandau. Sebastian Gieslowski, as well as another rider who springs to mind, he took the other win so far this season. Those two are the two that spring to mind, but overall we've got some fantastic riders out on this grid, and overall it's great to see such interest from a young age, such talent from a young age, and it really shows that motorcycle racing has a very healthy future.
Yeah, it certainly does. And motorcycle racing in the UK has a very healthy future, and it's not just the families that will be watching this race, it's potential scouts even. I mean, we have the Vision Track Racing Team Academy now that is able to bring riders all the way from Fab to the British Talent Cup, to Junior World Championship, and then to Moto 3, and it lets them get into the Grand Prix stage. It is, in my opinion, one of the best things that's happened to British motorcycle racing in the past 20-30 years. It finally gives these young riders hope and a realistic opportunity of making it to the Grand Prix stage, as well, numbers for UK riders have been lacking in the past couple seasons in Grand Prix. So it's these riders on your screen right now that are waiting to get underway in the warm-up lap that you will be seeing in the future on these big stages, on these big classes, on these very powerful motorcycles. But right now they're just learning their trade in these smaller, less powerful motorcycles. And yeah, the man on your screen right now, Taylor Tomlinson, he's been superb all year, as you've said. Every single round he's been there, he's been on the pace, and well, straight out the gate I think he's just been wanting to go away and run his own race, because although, as we mentioned, this is a rookie class, there's a lot of differences in abilities and confidence, meaning that lap traffic can become quite a big thing in this class.
Yeah, it certainly can. You mentioned the Vision Track Academy as well. While they don't get involved from as young as 6, let me tell you, they've spared no expense with what they've done in Fab so far, and I know that their operations within the Fab paddock will continue to expand in the future. But Taylor Tomlinson, that talent, as you mentioned, going from pole position. Kai Hawker starts alongside him, and it's Seth Hayward in P3. with Logan Cousins in P4. Unfortunately, we don't have a grid on us at the moment, but it's a very tight field nonetheless. We've got a lot of riders showing up in this rookies class. As we mentioned as well earlier, we did a few interviews earlier. One of them with Holly Harris, who you may have seen earlier in the Senior Mini Moto qualifying. You may be seeing those interviews tomorrow if you're watching along. But one of the things that myself and Holly talked about is female riders. Obviously, we've got this big push in motorsports in general to get more women involved in motorsports, and it is great to see we have a lot of young female riders in this rookies grid. It's great to see. Fab's always had a pretty decent female presence as far as motorcycle racing goes, but we've got a number of young female riders on this grid who are very much talented, and it is really great to see that as they're coming around now to form up the grid. Taylor Tomlinson on pole once again, but can anybody challenge him? He's been on a bit of a winning streak so far this season. Can anybody stop the Taylor? Let's find out. The marshals, some of them parents, talking to their kids for the final time. Last bits of advice. The flag marshal up the front as we get ready. Someone's already redlining the first of 3 races in this category. The first of 3 races this weekend. Who is going to be on top this time round? It's very warm out there and the heat is up. The tension is high. Let's see as we wait for the lights to come on. The flag marshal, the last checks being done by the parents, by the marshals as well. Maybe have a bit of a problem. A few riders pointing to the back. I can hear that someone is at full throttle already by the sounds of things to me. I'm not sure if that's just the wind or if that's oh no, there we go. Flag marshal maybe moving, maybe, who knows. We're I think we've still got a bit of a problem down the back of the grid, unfortunately. Yep, there we go. It seems like one of the riders had a problem on the formation lap. They've just come round now, so that seems to be all sorted as they slot into place on the grid. Let's find out what's going to happen in race 1 of the AC40 Rookies, the start of these young riders' motorcycle careers. And let's see if they can get this good race off to a good start as well. Flag marshal out the way. It's lights on. Lights off, we're underway. It's a fantastic start from Taylor Tomlinson from the pole position. Kai Hawken alongside as well, gets away well. Logan Cousins in P3 maintaining, but up the inside there's someone lagging unfortunately into the first turn, but it is Taylor Tomlinson leading the way out of Degnair 1, the first turn here at Ellough Park. It's a good start from him. It's all single filers to go, but a few moves further back in the pack. Down the inside there, one of the riders, but it is Taylor Tomlinson that leads the way once again with a great start.
Yeah, it certainly is. Taylor Thompson straight away off the line. He went for it, and he's got the dream start really. He's at front and no one can challenge him. And can we see something similar to what we've seen in the past few rounds, where he's just got to the front and just went away with it? And there's a follower there in the first lap, but he's already back on the bike and, well, he's perfectly okay, so he's going to carry on for this race. But it's Taylor Thompson who still leads away from Tyler Hartley. Tyler Hartley made a great qualifying session, and one person who may be slightly disappointed is Sebastian Gieslowski. All year we've been seeing Sebastian and Taylor almost have this rivalry, and well, they've been nothing stopping them really all year. So Sebastian Gieslowski on the tail just got past Tyler Hartley in that last lap there. So will he be able to catch up? Taylor Thompson leads the way by just a second.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. These AC40 Rookies, 8 laps round here, 7 laps left to go. Tomlinson leading the way, but Gieslowski has managed to work his way up into the second place position. But Tyler Hartley still applying that pressure, as you can see on your screen, as he's looking to the outside, using a lot of the road. Helps a bit unnecessarily through there. Gieslowski was just sitting pretty, not willing to let him through, and that is part of, the skill that these racers need to learn. It's defending, the so-called lost art of motorsport. It's one of the things that you definitely need to remember is to learn how to defend and learn how to race in general. And this is what this AC40 Rookies class is teaching these young riders. Taylor Tomlinson, their fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute dead, 0.057, so just over the 1 minute mark. Sebastian Gieslowski over a second down with his last lap, and of course he's fighting, he's trying to get his way through traffic, and fighting unfortunately costs you time. If you're Sebastian Gieslowski, you'll be seeing Taylor Tomlinson, the back end of Taylor Tomlinson, streaking off into the distance, as we've seen there, one of the riders taking a bit of a tumble, making his way back onto the circuit there. as he gets through and manages to slide back on that very luminously green bike. But there we see once again that fight for second place coming around the back end of the circuit through the Barney's hairpin. It's Gazlowski leading Hartley for P2. Gazlowski just sitting pretty, a quick check back behind him as he comes round the final hairpin. Mini Rossi there, so called because the corner opposite is called O Rossi, and it's basically a smaller version of it in the opposite direction. And now Gazlowski pulling a bit of a gap there. Taylor Tomlinson though, another fastest lap of 59.8, about 5 tenths off of Finley Polehill's lap record set back in 2020. So the lap times again tumbling. We've seen one lap record broken today already. Taylor Tomlinson, maybe he fancies another as we have a red flag out here, unfortunately. So a red flag situation here at Ellough Park. All the riders will have to come to a stop at the nearest marshal post. Hopefully the race will get back underway shortly. But a red flag had an incident down in the one of the final corners down at the Wones hairpin. So there we'll see all the riders coming to a stop at the marshal post. Hopefully everyone is okay. As the red flag, you can see, just for confirmation, if the red flag graphic at the side of your screen wasn't enough confirmation, see the marshal waving the flag as well. Of course, if you're new to motorsport, that means that the session is suspended. The race is stopped in its tracks, either through an incident or for weather, as we just have to stay for the time being where they are, the riders, just so we can clear up the incident. Hopefully everyone is okay. But there we're seeing once again Lewis Taylor Tomlinson stamping his foot down, showing everyone what that young man can do. A 59.884 was the last lap that he set before the red flag came out, and he was looking very pacey. Pulled the gap to 3.5 seconds on Sebastian Gazlowski. Again, Taylor Tomlinson, he's had 5 race wins out of 6 so far this season. I think he was looking to make it 6 out of 7 in that one. If we get the race restarted, hopefully we'll get that as well, because that, again, streaking off out the front, it's what he's been doing a lot this season. It was what he was doing out there as well.
Yeah, it certainly was, and all eyes that race up until the red flag was on Sebastian Gazlowski and Tyler Hartley. The battle for second place was just something else, really. It's great to see these young riders having this much racecraft and be able to have these battles. And whenever you're racing against someone on a racetrack, you know, you're learning your skills as it is. Whenever you're racing against someone that you know you can trust, you learn a lot from them, and that's when your lap times start to tumble. They start to get lower and lower. But there is also the turn-off of the fact that whenever you are in a battle with someone, you can sometimes go slower if you start tripping each other up. But if you're able just to follow each other and not impede each other's lap times too much, yeah, you can. That's when you start to learn, and that's how these riders learn, off each other, and sometimes off bigger riders, as we've mentioned. But Taylor Tomlinson, superb race. I mean, his last lap was almost 2 seconds quicker than Sebastian Gazlowski. He's in a different postcode, as I said, at round 1 with Ross, but yeah, it's what we expect, really. All weekend he's just been on the pace, and Sebastian Gazlowski, after not the qualifying that he probably did want, he did a pretty good job to make up the second place so early on.
Yeah, he did, to be fair to him, Sebastian Gazlowski. You know, again, as you said, qualifying, you know, it was still a great position, but by his standards, I'm sure that was disappointing to be down in 4th place. But working his way back up to second very, very quickly, but just unable to quite match the pace of Taylor Tomlinson early in that race. Tomlinson in that phase was just, again, as you said, doing what Taylor Tomlinson does. And, you know, we do see sometimes in rookies that, you know, you do get just young riders coming through who, I don't want to say just have it, you know, but, you know, sometimes you obviously you get riders coming in at different levels. Some riders, you know, start off with more natural talent than others. Taylor Tomlinson seems to be one of those riders, you know, in the veins of, you know, riders like Casey Gorman, Archie O'Brien, Oliver Hall, your champion from last year, you know, who just kind of turn up in the rookies and just, you know, instantly on it. You know, some riders take a little while to get used to the racing atmosphere, you know, understand, you know, learn racecraft and understand, you know, the pressures and all the problems that come with racing. And Taylor Tomlinson's just turned up, and he's just absorbed like an absolute sponge. He's just everything about what he does looks really, really good. And of course, that's no disrespect to the rest of the riders out on the grid. You know, it's a very, very strong grid of rookies that we've got this year, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, it's one of the strongest we've had, you know, in a while. I think it's safe to say, and a very packed grid of rookies as well. It's just that, you know, Taylor Tomlinson seems to be just a step ahead of everyone else, which just goes to show how, you know, strong of a rider that he is. Hopefully the red flag situation won't be lasting too much longer. The incident has been all cleared up. The rider has got up to their feet, which is absolutely great to see. There was an incident coming into the Wounds hairpin, unfortunately, but the rider up on their feet. A small round of applause from the ever-packed crowd that we get here at Fab Racing. So great to see that everyone is all okay. And hopefully we'll be resuming the race shortly. Still 5 laps to go when the red flag came out. Of course, the race, whether it gets back underway or not, that's up to race control. We'll be finding out shortly enough, I hope. But well, when the red flag did come out, as we've been saying, Taylor Tomlinson leading the way with quite a gap. But of course, this then neutralises that gap. So this is Sebastian Gazlowski's chance. If we go back under green flag racing conditions, this is his chance. Now he doesn't have to fight through traffic and waste time, trying to pick his way through. He's on the back of Taylor Tomlinson. If he can follow and maybe see if he's struggling a little bit anyway, he can pick up those lines and then he can challenge for the win. Of course, Sebastian, the only other race win we've had so far this year in the rookies class, he's a very talented rider as well. This is his chance to maybe try and pick a fight with Taylor Tomlinson, try and force his way through, try and get another race win under his belt. Yeah, it certainly is. And Taylor Tomlinson, going back to your point you mentioned a couple minutes ago, just like riders have different riding styles, everyone has a different mindset to how they go for their race. I mean, personally for me, I was always a much more of a scientific racer mindset, I guess you could say. I always thought about something a bit more. And you have some other riders that, just like Taylor Thompson appears to have, just soaks in like a sponge and straight away, just absolutely on it, while others take a bit more time to build up and just get their understanding and their head around what they're doing a bit more. And well, it all works out in the end. Obviously the time that it takes is different, but in the finished result, everyone in this class pretty much has the potential to be the next British Superbike champion. I mean, we don't know yet, and that's the great thing. That's what's so exciting with this class, and that's why there's such a crowd even watching this AC40 rookie race. This is not a race that's forgotten about at Fab. Everyone, with all the races actually, as a matter of fact, come and watch and support their friends, their family, whoever it may be. Even if they don't know anyone in the race, they might still watch it just to be able to see what kind of talent there is for the future of British motorcycle racing. Yeah, of course. Well, you mentioned that someone could be British Superbike champion. That may be. They may go on and be other things. It might be WSBK champion, MotoGP champion. Who knows? I mean, we've seen Fab riders go all over the world. We've seen riders in MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3. We've seen them in WSBK, as I said, BSB, and that's associated support classes. We've seen riders do anything and everything after graduating from Fab Racing. And again, these little guys out there, they're just looking up at the stars. They're looking at the names that have come before them through Fab Racing, going, I want to be like them. And obviously, you've got to have the talent. You've got to have a lot of luck as well on your side. They might be one of them. Who knows? We've got to just wait and see what the future holds. And then, it seems like the red flag has come to an end. We'll see in a minute if they're going to head back into the pit lane or go back out. It seems to me that we are going to have another start of the race. We're going to go from a standing start once again because it seems that we're going to wind the clock back a lap and go from 6 laps to go. So the rider's going to come round, form up on the grid again, and I believe we'll be having another start. I've just seen out my window a rider nearly going down on the getting back in. So obviously all the tyres and brakes very, very cold after sitting there for such a long time. So they don't have a formation up this time round. I'm not sure if they will or they won't. And if they don't, cold tyres, cold brakes could be a bit interesting for the first half of a lap, getting everything back underway. And there is a rider with technical issues, it seems. I had another rider who's nearly gone down on their way back up to the grid. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all works out. Yeah, it certainly is. And it's these riders after this red flag are going to have to get their minds back into a race mindset. They've had so long to stop and actually have a chat with each other and just talk about what happened in that first half of the race. So now it's going to be really interesting to see if Taylor Tomlinson can straight away get back in the pace and be able to do what he did. And if he can, that is going to be scary for every other rider this weekend, because if he can do it twice in a row, can he do it in the next 2 races of the weekend? We're going to have to wait and find out. But this is the AC40 Rookies, and I think we're just waiting for a couple riders to make their way round to the start of the grid to see if we will have a warm-up lap or not, which we do not yet know. I believe we may be having a whole race restart, you know, because looking out of my window, that is definitely not Sebastian Gazlowski going from P2. That is Tyler Hartley. So I think we may be restarting the race, but with just 6 laps to go instead of 8. So it's a whole race restart, just a slightly shorter race this time. So unfortunately, Sebastian Gazlowski, his luck hasn't come good. He's got to do it all over again. I believe we will be having a formation lap, but we'll see if the lights come on or not in a second. The flag marshal will get out of the way. If he points them out of the way, then that means that we're going on a formation lap. If he just walks off the track and the lights come on, hold on to your hats, everybody, because we're about to go racing once again.
Yeah, we are, and we're just waiting to find out whether we have a warm-up lap or not. The riders probably will just be finding out themselves. So will Taylor Tomlinson be able to do this again? Tensions are high on this grid. Everyone is getting ready for what may be the second half of the AC40 Rookies race, where they will try and make their name and make their stamp on the Fab Racing scene. As some of these riders, it's only their third round, second round, some of them it may only be their first round. But the marshals walk off there, they point to the lights, and we are on a warm-up lap now. So we will have a warm-up lap, just get their tyres and their mind back into things.
Absolutely. So going around one more time, as you said, get the tyres back in shape, make sure the bike's all working, and just make sure that you're not having a cold start, because that is not what anybody wants to pull away from the grid. Get down to turn 1, turn in, and then realise that you've got no grip and you're going straight on. Except you're not doing that with Ron Ryder, you're doing that with 22 odd. It's not a nice sensation, I can tell you. But Taylor Tomlinson, he's now got 6 laps to try and get that gap back up. Sebastian Gazlowski's got 6 laps to try and get onto the back of Taylor Tomlinson. We know he's got good enough pace to get up to second. If he can get there a bit quicker, he might be able to latch onto the back of Tomlinson, perhaps get a bit of toe down the straight, and as well just see where he's going, see the lines. Because Tomlinson, again, we know that he's got the pace this weekend. We know that he's the fastest this weekend in the field. If Gazlowski can just latch onto the back of him, see where the lines are, see where maybe he's going wrong or Tyler's getting something right that he wouldn't have thought about, just doing something different, he can switch it up, change up his lines, get on the pace a bit more, and maybe he can try and challenge Tomlinson for the race win. Yeah,
well, we're seconds away from finding out, will Taylor Tomlinson be able to make that incredible start where straight away he was about 2 tenths ahead of everyone else? So will he be able to do it? We don't know, we're going to have to wait and see, but Tyler Hartley will certainly be wanting a better start, and whenever these riders go off, you'll see them kick, because these bikes have so little power that the best way to start is literally run with them. But talking about getting off the grid, the marshals getting off the grid, the lights are on, the lights are off. That was a very, very quick light sequence, and Taylor Tomlinson leads the way. He's made the best start, and Sebastian Gazlowski straight away is in second place. Can he straight away make a move on Taylor Tomlinson? He's looking around the outside, but he cannot find a way past. That's such a tricky place to try and overtake, even in the inside, never mind the outside. But Taylor Tomlinson leads the way. Tyler Hartley is in third. He's maybe not what he wants, but it was such a quick light sequence, it certainly caught some people off guard.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure the race director just wanted to get the race back underway as quickly as possible. Of course, after that time we've lost under the red flag. And that was a very, very quick lights on, lights off to get things underway. But it is Taylor Tomlinson that leads the way. Once again, Sebastian Gazlowski in P2 on the back of Tomlinson. He's very close, as you can see. So that is perfect for Sebastian Gazlowski. As we can see, that's off the bike. It's that Tomlinson has gone down. So Tomlinson off the bike, coming through the penultimate corner. He's made a mistake somewhere. Bike's gone down into the wall, and Sebastian Gazlowski now leads this race. Drama here in race 1 of the Rookies AC40 class, as your race leader Taylor Tomlinson goes down after the red flag restart.
Yeah, that was not what he was wanting at all. Taylor Tomlinson, he didn't even have time to build up that lead, so it's going to make the biggest damage possible. I mean, Taylor Tomlinson, tyres may have been a little bit cold, his mind may not been up to speed just as much as he would want to, so now it's put him down the order. He's dropped like an absolute stone. Taylor Tomlinson, of course, led the way, and it looks like he was going to do the same once again. So now Sebastian Gazlowski will be feeling like all his Christmases have just came at once. He is leading the race. You can hear the crowd, they're shouting come on. They're absolutely buzzing for him. They're buzzing for what can be the sensational race now. Taylor Tomlinson just at the back of your picture now. He's down in 11th place. How much places can he make? Can he still get on the podium? Because we seen what pace he had, and it was something that was, well, it was highly remarkable. So now Taylor Thompson is already up to 7th place with the fastest lap of the race. Can he get a podium, Ross?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's pretty clear his bike and his confidence haven't been damaged, so we'll just have to wait and see. As he said, to 1 minute and 1 minute dead, 0.366. Gazlowski, though, well, now he's got to defend from Hartley like his life depends on it. We've got a firm race in our hands, and it's just unfortunate as well for Taylor Tomlinson. I mean, of course, you don't want to have an accident, but the two times you really don't want to have an accident is the first lap of the race because you lose so much time, and the last lap because you're right at the end. And it's unfortunately the first lap of the restart for Taylor Tomlinson, and as you said, he's down to 7th now. And now Gazlowski, we've seen Hartley having a look, coming out and into the final corner of last corner before. He's a little bit further away this time, but he's still following, perhaps trying to set a move up, coming into the middle part of the lap. He can get a really good exit out of turn 1, but it is Gazlowski that is leading the way. Hayward in P3, Tomlinson up to P5 already. There's 5 seconds separating Tomlinson from first. There is 2 seconds separating him from a podium. That is very, very close. Taylor Tomlinson could be in for a very, very good result after that tumble. We'll just have to wait and see because the action is still all at the front. It is Sebastian Gazlowski leading the way from Taylor Hartley. These two young riders, Gazlowski already a race winner this year. Hartley hasn't stepped onto the top step of the podium. Imagine how much that would mean for that young man's career, for that young man's season, for him to get onto that top step, to take that race victory. Of course, you know, his critics will say that it's not really been legitimate with Tomlinson going down, but it doesn't matter how they come, it just matters that it comes. And Hartley's still putting that pressure on. He's a little bit closer to Tomlinson this time by as they head on. 2 laps to go here. It's still, though, Gazlowski leading this race.
Yeah, and as in Taylor Thompson is in the podium positions with a 59.4. Now that is an incredible lap time on such a small, underpowered motorcycle, and one that, well, it's highly impressive no matter what. He is not far off lap record. He's about a 10th off the lap record in this rookie class. So now Gazlowski still leads away, just 2 laps to go in this race. And one person, actually, I want to give a shout out to, is Mason Frederick. He is 15th right now, and it's his first ever motorcycle race in his life. I mean, I've been watching them, him and his family racing page on Facebook, and just see them develop. He was finally getting his knee down, and he's up into 15th place on his first ever race, which is a great result. He comes from a racing family. His dad Matthew also races, and he's been racing for many years, so I'm sure he's getting some great advice, just like a lot of these racers have. And some other great advice was Taylor Thompson. He's told himself just to keep cool because he knows he has the pace. Again, another 59, a 59.5 that time round. He's just 2.9 seconds off the race lead. Taylor Thompson, it's been a great race.
Oh, no way!
1 lap to go, and it appears that Tyler Hartley has taken the lead this race.
I don't believe it. Sebastian Gazlowski went the wrong way around the traffic. And there we see Tyler Hartley took the opportunity, swept up the inside and into the race lead on the final lap of the race. Taylor Tomlinson as well. He's lapping a second faster than this front two, and he's right on the back of them as well. It's a 3-way fight to the lead coming in to the final section. It's Hartley leading from Gazlowski. Gazlowski looking for the way through, but he's not going to be able to find it. I don't think. There they are in the background. It's going to be, I believe, Tyler Hartley who's going to win this race as they come through. I'm simply not sure. It's so close to the line. It's going to be a photo finish at the line. Who's it going to be?
Gazlowski.
It's Gazlowski at the line. Taylor Tomlinson gets into second. It is separating the 3 of them by 1.5 tenths of a second. I do not believe. What have we just seen in the AC40 Rookies there?
It was something special, to say the least. I mean, it had everything you want. It had drama, it had close racing, it had last lap overtakes, multiple last lap overtakes. But it's what we mentioned at the start of the race. Traffic comes into play, and traffic is an integral part of that race there. Gazlowski managed to get that back in the last lap, but his last lap was 3 seconds slower than second place. So it was a great result from Sebastian Gazlowski and a great result from Tyler Hartley and Taylor Thompson, who takes second place after crashing out. There's nothing that anyone can say about that. That was an incredible ride.
That is perhaps the best rookies race I've ever seen. These young riders out there who've just put in a massive performance. That is absolutely unbelievable, and it is great to see there Sebastian Gastowski getting lucky there at the end. But Taylor Tomlinson, what a performance. Your heart goes out to Tyler Hartley as well. Going from second to first to third in the final lap. Oh, your heart goes out. But what a finish that we've just seen in the AC40 Rookies. Hand on heart. These young riders out there have just put in an absolutely fantastic race. That was absolutely brilliant. What a performance we've just seen, and what a race one for the AC40 Rookies that we've seen here today. Absolutely brilliant action from all of them, and we've got, of course, more stuff to come from them two tomorrow, or them three rather, at the front tomorrow, and of course the two races that we got tomorrow for the AC40 Rookies. What a brilliant race that we've just seen. What a motor race between all the three, and what drama on the last lap. As Lewis was saying, that just shows the absolute, drama that the lap traffic can cause here. Absolutely unbelievable stuff. And well, what a race. And we've still got two more to enjoy from that class as well. However, it's time, everybody, for the big one. It's time for the Premier class here at all of the classes here in Fab Racing. It is time, of course, for the LS2 Helmet Mini GP70 British Championship, and I've been joined by a very special guest here up in the commentary booth. Why didn't you want to introduce her? I've been joined by Minnie Rossi, who a corner is actually named after you here. You're a karter, and well, you've got a corner named after you at Ellough Park. That's pretty special. So why don't you introduce yourself to everyone at home, Minnie?
Hi everyone.
Just tell everyone about yourself, really.
Hi.
It's all right. On-screen nerves. It's all right. We'll ease you into the cross race. But we've been joined by Minnie Rossi, who the penultimate corner here is named after at the Ellough Park racetrack, and it's great to have you along with us for race one of the Premier Junior class here at Fab Racing, the class that everybody wants to see. It's awesome to have you along here with us for the ride, Minnie. And of course, you've had some experience here in Fab as well, so it's great to have you along here for the Mini GP70s. And of course, this is the Premier class here at Fab Racing. This is the one that everybody wants to see, and this is the one where all of the drama, all of the stakes are in. And we've had a great couple of rounds already for the Mini GP70s so far this season. I'm sure that we're going to see what's going to happen as we get under the way of the 70s Championship. Of course, we've got Ronnie Harris leading the way so far this season already, after he's had three wins rather in total so far. Ethan Sparks also with 3 wins. However, he's unfortunately had a tumble in race one of race one over at the first round at Lids. Of course, he was struggling with his class. It will be, however, Henry McCartney starting from the pole position. That is a name I don't think anybody expected to see on the pole. It was all Sparks and Ronnie Harris, it seemed on paper. As Henry McCartney, Sparks starts from P2, Ruben Braze in P3 with Marco Holt in P4. Ronnie Harris, championship leader, starts in P5. Not the best result that he would have wanted. I'm sure he'll be finding his way through. Blake Wilson is in P6 with Wilson Dilks in P7. Joshua Williams is P8. Samuel Monson is 9th with Luke Fitchett rounding out the top 10. Then there's Ollie Sims in 11th, Harry Payne in 12th, Noah Guillory in 14th, and Hayden Whiteman rounding out the grid. Now, Minnie, of course, you've had some experience here with Fab. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you know about the 70s as well? Obviously it's a big grid full of talented riders. I'm sure we're expecting to see a great race here today.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in this race, and everyone does really well all the time. So the race could go either way.
Oh, it absolutely could. And as the riders making their final preparations now, we're all ready to get going. Henry McCartney from the pole position, his first pole this season. Alongside him, your reigning champion from 2021, Ethan Sparks, of course, winning it in that championship throwdown, that 3-way championship throwdown at Clandale, the final round of last season. And championship leader Ronnie Harris down in P5. He's got a lot of work to do in all 3 races this weekend. But it's time for the LS2 Helmets Mini GP70 British Championship. All the riders on the grid are ready. The last checks being made by the marshals. It's time for race 1 of the most prestigious class of the weekend. The lights, come on! It's lights out, we're underway. It's a great start from McCartney. It's also a fantastic start from Marco Holt. He squeezed up the inside. Marco Holt to the lead in turn 1 through Degner 1. It's a brilliant start from Marco Holt. He slides through. I believe he's being followed by that is Ethan Sparks in P2. So great start from Marco Holt. Ethan Sparks in P2 as well. Ronnie Harris already up to P4 as well, it would seem. So great start from a few riders out there, but it's Marco Holt in the Minion helmet leading the way with a fantastic start there. As they head down through the back end of the circuit, it's still Marco Holt. Some riders perhaps challenging for positions. Ethan Sparks as well behind them on that vision track. Bike is looking for a move down the inside into won't, but unable to make the gap appear. And already Ethan Sparks is setting his sight on the lead. He knows that he's got the pace. Marco Holt started behind him on the grid. Ethan Sparks to the inside, down the front stretch. Can he make a move into Degner 1? No, he cannot. Ethan Sparks has to settle for second for the time being. He's got a lot of pace on board. Marco Holt there, of course, the fastest lap on the opening lap. But Ethan Sparks looking very, very pacey indeed. And the Mini GP lap record of 48.344. We have to see something that starts. And Mini, I've got a little bit of stat for you here. I was doing my research the other day. Don't be too nervous, don't worry. And one of the things I noticed is that every time that Fab has come to Ellough Park, the overall winner from the weekend, the rider that comes away from the weekend with the most points in this class has gone on to win the championship. I mean, obviously we haven't been here that many times, only a couple of times across the year, so it's perhaps not the most important statistic, but surely do you think that's playing in the minds of the riders, as they're going about their business in this race? Surely, they're all thinking, just that pure little statistic, as we see there, Sparks having a look down the inside and able to make the move. But surely that little statistic just playing in the mind, maybe some mind games from some of the riders here this weekend.
Yeah, no, maybe. Really anything can happen. All of these riders are great at everything they do, so...
Yeah, absolutely. Do you care to explain to me in the audience time why there's a corner here named after you? Because I have no idea, to be brutally honest with you. It must be a bit of a privilege.
Quite a while ago was my first time here, and I just got on really well, and I really liked the track. This is my home track, so I come here a lot, and Ella just... I don't really know, because my dad owns my account, like Mini Rossi account, but they sent a message to my dad and was like, then they just sponsored me.
That's all right for some.
And then, maybe a year later, they just decided to name a corner after me.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I don't really know how.
That's a very nice privilege. Well, congratulations for having a corner named after you. It's not a privilege all of us are lucky to have. 9 laps to go. Unfortunately, Luke Fitcher having a mechanical issue. He's pulled into the pits to seemingly retire unless they can sort the bike out. And, one rider that I really want to make a shout out to is the rider currently in P12, Harry Payne. Of course, I think this was inevitable that we were going to bring it up. But Harry Payne, maybe we'll have to talk about it in a minute, because Ethan Sparks looking to the inside. And Marco Holt again, though, Holt unable to make his way through. Marco Holt is putting up a stoic defence in the lead. We know he's a super defensive driver. He knows exactly where to place the bike on the racetrack, and we've got this train of 5 riders behind him. Sparks clearly has the pace, but at the moment it is Marco Holt leading the way. 48.4 is last time out. We're getting pretty close to the lap record, but as I was saying, Harry Payne, as Luke Fitcher has luckily rejoined the race. Harry Payne, of course, if you weren't watching last time out at Clandau, involved in a horrific accident. Oh my goodness me, Holt closing the door at the very last minute. And maybe we'll talk about Harry Payne in a minute, because I get the feeling that Marco Holt might be challenging for the lead this time by once again. Yes, he's got a great run coming out of last corner, looking to the inside of turn 1. No, again, he can't make the gap appear. Henry McCartney, a new lap record of 48.146, takes away the title that Ronnie Harris got last year. So a new lap record for Henry McCartney in the process. These front 5 bikes, as a rider off there, off the road. That's, I believe... I'm not entirely sure who that is, unfortunately. That's there you go, that's Wilson Dilks. Thank you, Minnie. As goes off the bike. Ooh, that's a pretty nasty accident. Yellow flags out, but up the front, we've still got this 3-way fight. Oh no, a big accident in the background. That's Wilson and Harris down in the background. tumbling over each other. Holt runs wide through the penultimate corner as well. This is a great opportunity for Sparks, as that's championship leader Ronnie Harris down off the bike. We've got yellow flags out, so Ethan Sparks isn't allowed to overtake because of the yellow flags that we've got out. It's Ronnie Harris and I believe that was Blake Wilson getting involved with each other, tangling bikes, and both riders out of this race. But Ethan Sparks still challenging for the lead. Ethan Sparks to the inside, and they make contact. Ethan Sparks goes through, and Marco Holt. Ethan Sparks to the lead of the race with a great move, a bit of a bump pass. He gets the move done just before the yellow flag's out as well, but Marco Holt challenges the inside. He can't do that round there. He's going to have to give that position back if he gets through. No, Ethan Sparks, but Marco Holt again to the inside. Oh, Marco Holt's not taking no for an answer. He's still looking. Sparks defending the whole way round, and while this is happening, Henry McCartney behind them is giving it a good old go. It's still Ethan Sparks that leads this race. The yellow flags are still out. Oh, that was almost very, very naughty by Marco. You are not allowed to overtake under yellow flag conditions, but that was a super move from Ethan Sparks. Up the inside, a little bit of a bump past Marco as well to shift him out of the way. Brilliant stuff from your reigning champion.
Yeah, that was a great pass. He did really well.
Yeah, it was awesome stuff, and he still leads this race with 5 to go. I'm now going to try and talk about Harry Payne, because I would like to. But this race, again, Sparks pulling a little bit of a gap, but again, the 70s always action all over the circuit as we're getting through. But let's talk about Harry Payne. Of course, if you are not aware, the rider currently in P9, Harry Payne, had a horrific accident, a brake failure at the fastest part of the Clandau circuit, knocked unconscious, airlifted to hospital, had concussion, a bit battered and bruised around as well. As we see it, that's Marco Holt now, another lap record for Marco Holt of 47.935. So Marco Holt there, a huge lap record, as he's already got a lap record at Lid this season. But Harry Payne, so a massive accident. Was hospitalised, he was really well. Went into school later that week to sit an SAT exam, bear in mind, and at the very next round he's back on the bike and racing. So Harry Payne on that number 11 bike, has done an absolutely phenomenal job. As Marco Holt there, the new lap record gets confirmed now that he's chasing Ethan Sparks. But of course, it is great to see such a fantastic performance being put in by Harry Payne on his return to Fab. As we got a rider down there, the number 7, that's Luke Fitchett. So Luke Fitchett, after those mechanical issues, has gone down. So not quite Luke Fitchett's day, it would seem so far. Ethan Sparks now, I believe, has just set... Ethan Sparks now has the lap record of 47.881. So the front two trading lap records with 3 laps to go. And this is an absolutely phenomenal race that we've had on our hands. This 3-way fight for the lead. Holt and Sparks leaving nothing on the line. McCartney, I think he's just waiting for them to have an accident at this point, because they're so close together, fighting all the time for the lead of the race. Sparks, was a little bit delayed coming out of the final corner, but Holt had a big wobble coming through last corner and almost went down. I think he lost the front of the bike, as he came through last corner. That could have been huge. And these two are absolutely on it the entire way. They are neck and neck the entire way with 1.5 laps to go. This could be anybody's race.
Yeah, it literally could. Everyone's doing so well, and just could be anyone.
It absolutely could, but it's reigning champion Ethan Sparks that is leading the way. There you go, a new lap record confirmed, 47.881 for Ethan Sparks. He's coming down into the final section now for the penultimate time, into the Warren's hairpin, as Holt still chasing, Holt still pushing McCartney. They're coming up to some lap traffic as well. We saw in the rookies race just a moment ago, the lap traffic can mean so much. It can change the race so much. It's so narrow, there's no space to get through, and Sparks getting held up. Oh my goodness me, Holt's managed to get through as well, so they look like they're through okay. The final lap of the race, it is Ethan Sparks from Holt. McCartney has been held up. He's fallen out of contention for this win. He's going to have to settle for third. Marco Holt, though, we know that he's not going to take second for an answer. He's going to push until the very line. Sparks, though, he's got that champion mentality. He's already won the championship last year. He's cool. He's collected. Here comes Marco Holt looking to the inside. Maybe Ethan Sparks, still defending front end of the bike, picks up, coming into the final section. This is the last real overtaking opportunity for Marco Holt. It passes by So unless Marco Holt can pull off some magic, he's got a great run out of the penultimate corner, but it will be Ethan Sparks winning race 1 of the LS2 Helmets Mini GP70 British Championship. Oh my goodness me, what a race. Respect between the two riders at the front. Despite that contact between them, no bad blood. That is racing after all, if nothing but a bit of rubbing. Oh, what a race we've just seen. It's Ethan Sparks from Marco Holt from Henry McCartney on podium. That is brilliant, and that changes things in the championship as well, because Ronnie Harris, who was leading the championship, has come away from race 1 with nothing. Ethan Sparks will retake the championship lead with a new lap record as well. What a race we've just seen, Minnie.
Yeah, that was a great race and everyone did really well.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Fantastic stuff. And Ethan Sparks pulling a bit of acrobatics on the bike there. And of course, your reigning champion from last year. You can see, even though he's already a champion, how much it means to him only here this year, because he's too young to go to British Talent Cup. Ethan Sparks takes a brilliant victory by 1.5 tenths of a second. Marco Holt managed to hold on to P2 after taking the lead at turn 1. Then it's Henry McCartney rounding out the podium. Ruben Bray comes home in P4 with Joshua Williams in P5. Samuel Munson was P6 with Noah Guillory, or Ollie Sims rather, in P7. Noah Guillory's here, and Harry Payne, a fantastic performance on his return to motorcycle racing after his big accident in the P9. Absolutely amazing stuff from him. And then Hayden Whiteman was P10. And unfortunately, we lost Luke Fitchett, Blake Wilson, Ronnie Harris and Wilson Dilks during that race. So great stuff. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, Minnie. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I'm sure that everyone at home loved coming along as well. And your interesting story, but that was the LS2 Helmets Mini GP70 British Championship. And well, what a race that we've just seen. And now it is time for something a little bit different. It's time, Lewis, for the Moto Team race.
Yes, it's time for the Moto Team race. It's something completely different, something that is only, well, you only see it in the Moto Team class, and the name on your screen is actually the name of the owner of the bike. And yeah, I mean, quick comment for me there, the Mini GP70 race was something else. I mean, it was so dramatic. That is gonna, well, we're going to look back on that race for rounds to come and potentially see that as the turning point in the championship. We did not expect to see it's front runners. I mean, Luke Fitchett, Ronnie Harris, it's front runners that you do not expect to see crash out. And on that last lap as well, Henry McCartney was there ready to pounce on until the final sector, where I believe he just was maybe in that gear 2 high and just was at the power band and struggled, and it really let Ethan Sparks and Marco Holt on that final sector just stretch away. And yeah, what a race. I mean, there's nothing more I can say.
Yeah, that was that was race 1 of 3. You've got so much more to look forward to tomorrow, not just in the 70s, but in all of the classes that we've got here at Fab Racing. And of course, if you're just joining us, hello and welcome to round 3 of the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championships here at Ellough Park in Suffolk. Of course, if you're watching along, it is a pleasure to bring you in. Of course, you can always get involved either by commenting on the live stream or getting in touch either through the Fab Racing or the Motorsport Radio social media channels. We always love to see what you all at home think, and always love to see the support from family members and friends and all of the like. And there we can see inside the dummy grid, we can see there that the Moto Team getting ready to head out. Now, Moto Team, as you said, Lewis, it's a bit different because it's about the bike. It's not about the rider. The rider's irrelevant. Who cares? Well, of course, we do care. But the name that you'll see is the name of the person who has entered the bike. Now, this year it's not as bad as it was last season. I'll say that much, because last season it was basically anybody and anybody showing up and having a go. You had no idea who was actually riding. This year it's not too bad because they've changed the rules and the regulation around a bit on what bikes can enter. So now usually it is the rider who's entered the bike is on that bike, but it's not always the case. So you'll have to bear with us if we do make a few mistakes as we wait and see. As I think that's where Luke Fitchett went down in the 70s race, just getting a bit of sawdust down. Clearly a bit of a damaged bike. Hopefully they can get that all repaired for tomorrow if that is the case. Of course, Luke, a very talented rider indeed. But yeah, it's time for the Moto Team. Of course, we're having some big names, some names where we're not entirely sure who's actually on the bike. And well, it's an entertaining race nonetheless. You get a whole collection of different bikes out on show. I mean, Moto Team, part of the joy is it is racing for very, very cheap. I mean, you can speak to any of the people who take part in Moto Team, and they'll say that is part of the fun of the Moto Team class, is that it is basically cheap racing. Because what you do, Lewis, is, and if anyone wants to get involved at home, by the way, if you ever fancy taking up some motorcycle racing, this is perhaps the cheapest way to do it, is the Moto Team. What you do is you buy a bike you can use on the road, you slap a number on it, you enter into Fab Racing, you turn up and you go around. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, one of the classes literally is called street stock because it's that close standard. It's just got no indicators and some racing fairings. And yeah, it's producing some great racing all year. Darren Anderson, who I believe is not here this run, sadly, and Will Howarth have put it out to the line on the last lap. But there is Dale Baldwin, the photographer, who, as I mentioned earlier, produced that amazing shot of Sylvan Mintz's save in free practice. And he's clearly working hard at the moment, waiting for the bikes to come back out on track. And then, well, he can get his real job underway and not just sit on his phone in the sunshine and get a tan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not hooked up to the PA here today, so we can't hear us. But if you're watching the stream, give us a wave up in the commentary box, because we can see you from the commentary box. But I'm not seeing any reaction, so I'm gonna imagine that he's actually just holding his head in his hands and contemplating the life, universe, and everything, as we get the Moto Team boys out and ready to get going onto the grid, as they pull out of the dummy grid. Of course, we've got two different classes here in Moto Team. You've got the Moto Team Superstock, as Lewis said. That is basically your standard bike that you've bought from a seller, and you basically slapped, as Lewis said, you slapped a race number on it, you slapped a fairing on it, and off you go. You've also got the Open class. That's a bit less road legal. Well, it's still a road legal, but a bit less than the street stock, shall we say. It's a bit more modifications, a bit more you can do to the bikes. You've got two different classes. It's very confusing. What's even more confusing this year is that they've stopped categorising the championships together and started categorising them separately, which makes sense, to be fair, from like a championship standpoint. Of course, there's no point mixing up the Moto Team, the two different classes into one, but at the same time, it is a bit confusing, and my brain can't comprehend it, unfortunately. I was never that good at maths. But anyway, as they're pulling up onto the grid, you'll see there Will Howarth on the number 96. That is actually Will Howarth on the bike. Jason Pugh on the number 8. That is actually Jason Pugh on the number 8. Behind them, Jay King on the number 1. That is actually Jay King, the reigning Moto Team champion. He's also a Pit Bike 140 3-time champion in the past, and what he sometimes does as well as they head out on their formation lap, he sometimes actually offers out runs on his Moto Team bike to his subscribers on his Pit Bike Sonic YouTube channel, which is also a great way to get some behind-the-scenes Fab Racing access. So if you ever fancy winning a Moto Team ride or getting some behind-the-scenes access, of course you can go check out Jay's YouTube channel. But as we get going now on the formation lap, I think it's about time that we ran you through the grid. It will be Will Howarth starting from the pole position with Jason Pugh alongside on that number 8 machine. Jay King starts in P3 with Jack Andrews in P4. Scott Jewett is P5 with Malcolm Stein in P6. Jamie Diss is 7th with Philip Joyce in 8th, with Linton Dimiola and Ryan Button rounding out the top 10. And then on the John Keats machine, it's not John Keats, it's who is on the John Keats? We were told earlier, but it's already slipped my mind. It's Ross Morgan. That's who's on the John Keats machine. Apologies to Ross. And I've been told to say that Ross, the Welsh, I'll call him the Welsh Wizard. That's not what he wrote down as his own nickname. It starts with a W. It doesn't end in Izzard. I've been told to say that he's not last, so he doesn't shout at me. But I've already forgotten that he was riding in this race, so I feel like I'm going to get shouted at after this anyway. Do apologise, Ross. Rounding out the grid anyway is Ian Baker, who unfortunately I've just dissed as being last in that saving my own skin there. Apologies, Ian. But lining up on the grid now, Lewis, for the Moto Team. It's a bit different, but it's a bit of a laugh anyway, isn't it? Let's go racing, shall we?
Yeah, let's go racing. The marshals go off the grid. They all look up to the lights. We wait for the lights to rise. The lights are on and it's long haul. The lights are off. And that is a jump start from Jamie King. He will not be wanting that. That is, I think, a 3-second penalty for a jump start. And Will Howarth tries to go around the outside of Jamie King. But Jamie King, of course, run that number 1 plate from winning the championship. But it's Will Howarth who now leads the way. But Jamie King's diving up the inside again, trying to make the most of this jump start as he knows a penalty is coming his way.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we were strictly told over the tannoy earlier. I didn't want to mention it, as there we see there Will Howarth getting back through, and then Will Howarth might have a problem because he's just massively slowed, and Will Howarth's got a problem. So Will Howarth going massively backwards. It might be okay because he just seemed like he got going again, but he just dropped back. So it's Jay King still leading the way, but with a 3-second penalty now. Jump starts, unfortunately, seemingly quite a common occurrence here at Ellough. We haven't seen any so far today, but across the years we've had quite a few, to put it mildly. And that is a 3-second penalty, no ifs, no buts. Or the race director Roger will come and hunt you down in the paddock and give you a stern telling off. Will Howarth getting a move on once again after that half an issue he seemingly had, but has seemingly solved itself now. Jack Andrews, fastest lap of the race with that run through. But it is Jay King leading the way on the road, but applying post-race penalties immediately because we know he's got one. Jason Pugh currently leading the way. He's got about half a second back to P2 Will Howarth there, who's actually got through. So it's now Will Howarth leading the way. But Jay King's in the way on the road, and now Will Howarth's Will Howarth sliding through. Oh my goodness me, Jamie King. That was defending and a half, wasn't it? Slamming the door on Will Howarth. And we have confirmation from race control, as expected, that Jay King is getting slapped with a 3-second penalty after that jump start. But Will Howarth doesn't care. He's trying to finish first on the road anyway, and he's risking it all, looking up the inside in places where you really shouldn't be looking. Up the inside, maybe into turn one. He's got a bit of a run in the toe. No, Jay King maintains that P1 on the road for the time being. One thing that is hurting Jamie King, though, is if he's defending against Will Howarth like he is, that's going to bunch everyone up behind Will Howarth. So overall, he may actually lose more places if he tries to hold on to that first on the road than if he lets him through. Because if he lets him through, he has the chance to, not bunch up behind and get a bit of a gap, because there is a bit of a gap already from 4th down to 5th. If he's fighting them as Will Howarth finally slides past on the inside, takes the lead on the road, as well as in theory, it's going to bunch up all the riders behind him. If he's just being a moving roadblock, he might actually lose more places.
Yeah, he might. I mean, I think right now, if he can just keep with Will Howarth, it can be the best thing for him, because Will Howarth has the pace to win this race, and he's shown some great pace all weekend. So if he can keep with Will Howarth and try to go with him as Will Howarth tries to bridge a gap over Jason Pugh, and then, well, hopefully, for Jamie's sake, this 3-second penalty will not hurt him too much and will not hurt his championship defence chances. But Will Howarth leads the way now by 0.6 of a second over Jamie King, but of course he does have that penalty. So it's Jason Pugh, who in reality is in second place, and Jack Andrews will be delighted to hopefully try and get a podium in today's Moto Team race. But Will Howarth, dominant performance. He's not got Darren Anderson this time round, that for the first 2 rounds has put it to him and made it very, very difficult. We seen last round at Clandell, last lap battles between Will Howarth and Darren Anderson, but this time he doesn't have that to worry about. He can just run his own race, run his own lap times. He knows that he has the pace to try and win this race. And well, we seen earlier Will Howarth dropping all the way down to 4th, and I believe he did just miss a gear, and with it being a 2-stroke, it's slightly more difficult to get that power back up, so it'll let Jack Andrews and Jason Pugh get past him. But Jamie King actually was like he's in the lead of the race.
I mean, obviously Jamie, he won't know he's been given a penalty, in the theory that obviously there's no communication between race control and the riders out there, but he knows that a jump start is a penalty, and he's still going. Respect to Jay King, but I've got no idea what's going on. I'll have to ask him later. Well, there we go. Will Howarth probably not the most happy bunny on the planet as he's looking to the inside now, diving down the inside into the Wones hairpin. A great move. Jamie King tries the switch back. Jamie King gets the switch back, but Will Howarth gets better drag and better drive out of the corner. He's able to put the power down more effectively through the rear wheel. And again, retakes the lead. Jay King having a glance back. Yes, Jay, you're going to drop down to 4th at this rate, given the gaps, because they're too close. He's get away with it. So Jamie King 2nd on the road as it stands with 7 laps to go. If we finish as we do now, off the bike, that's Jack Andrews that's gone down. Jack Andrews sliding off the bike. That's coming out of a hairpin, I believe. That's a very strange. So he's actually lost the front of the bike, I think, coming out of a corner. That's a very strange place to be having an accident. Coming out of the right-hander down at Shoemakers. Yeah, that's a very strange accident, but he's managed to get going again. looks like the bike is okay. There's Will Howarth. He's already put a massive gap on Jamie King. It was a half a second at the line. This time visually it's massive already. We'll see now as they come to the line on all our timing what the gap is, and it is now 2.5 seconds. Jamie King's dropped 2 seconds in a lap. I'm not sure if that shows how fast Will Howarth is at the moment and how great he's been this season, or if Jay King's just, backed off for some reason. Maybe he's having a problem, but Will Howarth, 2.5 seconds to the good in the lead. Now he's looking pretty solid for the win at the moment.
Yeah, he certainly has been. Jamie King, all he tried to do was just make the most of that jump start. As we see Russell Morgan on our screen, and it's Will Howarth just trying to get past Russell Morgan on the John Keats bike, but there you go, past the Welshman, and just 6 laps to go in this race. And Jack Andrews, it's not a result he wants. He's dropped down to 8th place. I do believe it was just as soon as he tapped on that throttle with the lean angle, it took all the weight off his front tyre, and that just made it fold, and well, he went down and ruined his race. And he was in great position and one that he could have potentially got 2nd place from. But Will Howarth leads the way with 4 second gap. And reminder, 1 year ago this circuit, Will Howarth has some memories. He had a brake failure on his mini-moto in the senior mini-moto race, and he actually flew over the tyre wall. So this circuit has some good and some happy memories, but right now Will Howarth is on the way to try and make some more happy memories.
Yeah, the crash compilation from last year is on YouTube, is all I'm going to say. It is a spectacle to behold. But Will Howarth currently leading the way on his Moto Team bike. We managed to catch her an interview as well earlier, so if you're watching along tomorrow, you can see us speaking with Will Howarth and what he had to say about this weekend here at Ellough. Of course, it's a big track. A lot of the riders, saying it's a very big, very physical circuit. You've got to be very physically fit to perform well around here. And, it's very tough. It's fast, it's narrow, it's very technical as well. Coming into the final section, there's undulation all throughout the track, and it's you've got to be very, very on it, both mentally and physically around here, as well as having the talent and the dedication that being a fast rider here at Fab needs. Will Howarth, though, fastest lap of the race last time out at 53.280, and I'm just checking that is a new lap record for Will Howarth. So there you go. As we've been seeing all day long, the GP bikes setting new lap records, and Will Howarth this time around to 53.280. Absolutely smashes the previous one set by himself, funnily enough, in 2020. That is a massive lap. Will Howarth, he's absolutely on it right now. He's pulled 6 seconds, nearly 7 seconds on Jay King. He is flying out there at the moment. And although the last lap, not quite as good for him, unfortunately. He's got 8 seconds on Jay King right now, 8.3. Will Howarth is putting his mini-moto brake failure well behind him as we look further down the field. See some of the riders challenging for places. Lenta Di Meola in P4, holding off Philip Joyce and Malcolm Stein for 5th and 6th positions. And Di Meola, he's a rider who's been improving very quickly across the year. He came along in late. Was kind of there or thereabouts, but he's been really, really pushing hard. You can see he's done a lot of work on the bike. It's more of a pit bike style machine than the others. Still a GP bike, but not quite as Grand Prix as some of the other ones, shall we say, just from visuals alone. But he's been putting in a big effort. It shows, throughout the classes here, the dedication that goes into, riding at a Fab. But even if you're just doing it for fun, as many of the older riders are, there's still a lot of hard work and dedication that goes into it.
Yeah, it certainly is. Fab attracts riders from all different backgrounds, from all different age ranges and all different experiences. It's great to see. And there we have it. It is Jack Andrews on your screen now in 7th place that can see the battle for 4th right now, so he can hopefully still try and get a good result, even though he's crashed. So I think 4th place wouldn't be too bad for him as he dives up the inside of Malcolm Stein. And what a move that was. It was aggressive, but he made it stick, and it's bridged a slight gap there from, but just 2 laps to go in this race, and Jack Andrews is trying to make the most out of a bad situation, really. A 40-second gap to the win, so that is clearly out the window, but it seems, with going on to the last lap now, that the win is out the window for anyone else apart from Will Howarth. Will Howarth has been absolutely dominant in that race. It's 12.5 second gap from Jamie King, who of course will not finish in second, so really it's Jason Pugh who we have to think about. Jason Pugh is in second place right now with a 12.7 second gap from Will Howarth, but Will Howarth has been absolutely dominant this time out as he goes round. He's just trying to stay on the bike right now. Will Howarth has done amazing. It's better memories than what he had on the senior mini moto as we head into the final sector. Amazing ride there from him, consistent, dominant. It is what Will Howarth can do as he heads around the final corner. Will Howarth wins. He'll be absolutely delighted with that performance, and what an amazing ride that was. He done absolutely everything perfect, and a new lap record on that 52. Final lap. A 52.8, the first ever 52 on a Moto Team bike. Remember, it's a 54.310 at the start of the race, and it went down to 53s, and now it's a 52. There was absolutely nothing anyone could do.
Just about sums up Will Howarth's performance there, doesn't it? Absolutely fantastic. Jamie King demoted to third place in the end on the road. He's actually far enough in front of Linton De Miolo, I believe, that he won't actually drop any more positions. So it should be Jamie King rounding out the podium, Jason Pugh in P2. But Will Howarth, wow, what a ride that was. Absolutely dominant. I mean, it was just absolutely perfect, wasn't it? I don't think he put a wheel wrong. It was just brilliant riding. You know, once he got ahead of the jump starting Jamie King, was just flying away. There you go, 16 seconds was the winning margin for Will Howarth. Jason Pugh in P2, Jamie King in P3, rounding out your podium. Jack Andrews managed to get into P4 after that fall. Linton De Miolo unfortunately dropping to 5th at the end, with Malcolm Stein and Philip Joyce in 6th and 7th. Scott Jewett was P8, Jamie Diss was P9, and Ryan Button was P10. And then just outside of the top 10, we had the 666 and the 229 machines. That concludes a brilliant Moto Team race, as we always get. And now we've got the best of the best on the air-cooled junior mini moto bikes, the AC40 Pros. This is the step up from the rookies. This is where the business starts to get serious, shall we say. So you have to wait and see. But what a Moto Team race that we've just seen.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I mean, now with these riders on these bikes, it's something completely different. At Fab, basically, after every single race, we have something completely different for you at home. So the AC40 Pros are next, and what a class it is. We have some great names in this class, and it's a pretty healthy grid. It's a pretty large grid, and it's really the final time on these air-cooled bikes for some riders, but some do prefer, like Byron Johnson, just to go in the LC40 Pros, LC40 Elites with these AC40 Pro bikes and still perform, because this is allowed. And it's another step that Fab has taken to keep costs down, because as we know, racing can be expensive, so Fab does a great job at keeping it as low as possible.
Now it is time for race 1 for the AC40 Pros. As Lewis said, it's in theory the last opportunity for these riders on their air-cooled mini motos before they go on to the liquid cooled. But of course, you can enter your air-cooled into the liquid cooled class if you so wish to do so. And it is time to see what is going to happen in race 1. Season so far dominated by Byron Johnson, the younger of the two Johnson brothers, who has been pretty phenomenal, I think it is safe to say, so far this year, as the riders head out onto the grid. He's just been fantastic. Byron Johnson, it's a tough class. He's taken 4 race wins, a clean sweep last time at Clandau as well, leading the way in the championship by 61 points to Matthew Thomas. And this is after, he was even in the top 10 last year. He was actually, I apologize, he was in 5th. But he was last out of the riders that completed all of the season. Granted, that was because of his age. It was his first year in the higher category as well. He's still a very, very young lad. And Byron Johnson, he's come out into this season, obviously done a lot of work over the winter, and he's come out of the gate absolutely flying. He's sitting on pole position again today. Can he continue his winning streak from Clandau? We'll have to wait and find out. But again, a big grid of names to look forward to here in this AC40 Pros class. Lots of very, very strong riders out there, and lots of action about to get underway.
Yeah, Byron Johnson, of course, starting this race from pole position from Sam Gardner. Harrison Day returning from breaking his wrist in third place, starting the second row of the grid. Matthew Thomas in fourth with Jensen Bishop in fifth. Luke Hall in sixth place with Chloe Gleeson, one of the many female riders that we have here at Fab, will be starting in seventh, with Liam Lindquist in eighth. Oliver Hall, who had another ride on the MotoGP 50 yesterday, will be starting in ninth, with Cal Maxwell running out the top 10. George Ackerman in 11th and Dylan Tureen in 12th. Rex Austin 13th, and Ollie O'Gorman, of course brother of Casey O'Gorman, rounding out the grid in 14th position.
Absolutely. Byron Johnson once again on pole position, but it is close between himself and Sam Gardner in P2. Only a couple tenths of a second separating the front row. Can anybody stop the Byron Johnson train that we've been seeing so far this season? He's not the only race winner that we've had so far this year. Harrison Day, of course, he took 2 victories or at Lid rather, but of course, unfortunately, he broke a bone, wasn't able to take part at the last round in Clandau. And well, I just seen you may have just seen my co-commentator Lewis going absolutely mental in the commentary box as we briefly appeared on the camera. But let's see what is going to happen. What do you think is going to happen in this race as we wait and see the riders pulling up onto the grid? The marshals and the parents waiting to say their last words of wisdom to their young riders out there, which will probably be of you've got this, go get him, maybe a bit more stronger language for some of the more select individuals in the paddock. But we'll have to wait and see what happens as we wait for the AC40 Pros, race 1 of the weekend for the pros. And this is a class that always delivers in both talent and racing. Arch O'Brien dominated last season. Byron Johnson was seemingly wants to do a similar thing. Can anybody stop him? His main rival starting right behind him in P3, Harrison Day. As you wait, the lights go on. Oh, it's a massive jump start there. The lights go off, a jump start for someone at the back, but it's a great start from the inside for Sam Gardner. Not a great start for Harrison Day, unfortunately, but Sam Gardner takes the lead from second position. Byron Johnson trying to look away through this. Sam Gardner, who's taken the lead in the race. Byron Johnson already poking a nose up the inside, but unable to make the gap appear just yet. Matthew Thomas following them as well. There goes Byron Johnson down the inside into the Holmes hairpin with a fantastic move. He squeezes back past Sam Gardner into the lead of the race, and Byron Johnson retakes the lead. Wasn't the best start in the world for him, but he's managed to get back up to P1. A great start. Sam Gardner in P2. Harrison Day following now in P3.
Yeah, it wasn't, and I tell you who it was a good start for, and that is Liam Lindquist. I believe he jumped the start and he grabbed the brakes again to try to get a stop, but it was too late. So Byron Johnson leads the way, and he's already bridged a pretty good gap from Sam Gardner. So now maybe he's already going to be thinking of just one lap in this race of it trying to control the race. But it's Matthew Thomas who is the fastest lap of the race with a 57.4, which is pretty fast straight out the gate. But Byron Johnson, of course, brother of Austin Johnson, is going to be wanting to try and repeat the race wins that he has had this season. But Sam Gardner, of course, had quite a heavy crash at round 1 of the championship, and he's managed to come back from that stronger than ever, actually, it appears, by straight away being back on the pace. Even at Leeds, he was straight back on the pace after his incident. But it is Byron Johnson who leads the way. Chloe Gleeson is up to 7th place after getting overtaken by Jensen Bishop, and Oliver Hall has had quite a lonely race so far, staying in 9th. But it's not a bad result. But Ollie O'Gorman, actually, from the start, is up to 11th place from 14th. So he's made an awesome start from Ollie O'Gorman. Hopefully he's going to aim for a top 10 and just try pile on that pace. But it's Byron Johnson who leads the way with a best lap of a 54.532 with a 1 point. Adds that Sam Gardner has crashed out of second place. That's going to help Byron Johnson. Byron Johnson will not know just yet that Sam Gardner's not there, but Sam Gardner rejoins this race. He is perfectly okay, but now that is absolutely valuable championship points lost and valuable positions lost in this race. It's really leaving us to wonder how much positions has he lost and how much damage limitation can he do.
Oh, what a big shame for Sam Gardner there going down. That promotes Matthew Thomas and Harrison Day into the podium place, and I feel like Harrison Day is another rider that I just want to take a brief moment to talk about, much in the vein of Harry Payne earlier. Of course, Harrison is not just him, but his family. Obviously, been through a lot the last few weeks. Obviously, he had his accident at Clandau, breaking a bone, and then of course, unfortunately, his father Josh, a BSB rider, having a horrific accident just a few weeks ago. And was in hospital, and it was actually very touch and go for quite a while. And he's here today at the circuit. We interviewed him earlier. You can see that tomorrow if you're tuning in. And it is great to see him up on his feet. Great to see him here supporting his son as the now mechanic role he's had to adapt for a little while. And obviously, we hope Josh the speediest of recoveries, and hope that he's able to get back on the bike as quickly as possible. And it's great to see Harrison as well. After I know their family's been through a lot, and his dad Josh he was telling me about how Harrison actually is more nervous for him about how his dad's doing than about how he's going to do out this weekend. When he went out for practice, it was apparently he was just struggling just thinking about it. So it's great to see him up in P3 as well. Got a few moves further back. Chloe Bishop moving up to P6 as well. Of course, the first female pole sitter in Fab Racing history last year when she managed to nab the pole position at Clandau in the rookies class. Byron Johnson still streaking away. Matthew Thomas in P2. And Chloe Gleason in P6, so great stuff from her there as well. Oliver Hall in P9 as well, your AC40 Rookies champion from last season. He's taking he's still trying to get used to this little bit faster pros bike. Of course, it's a little bit less restricted, a little bit more power. He's still easing his way into this season. We know, of course, Oliver is a fantastic rider, as proved by his brilliant results in the Rookies Championship last season. So I'm sure he's just still warming up. There's still plenty more to come from that young man. Just you wait. But he's currently in P9, still in the top 10. So it's a good race so far for him. But with 5 laps to go, Byron Johnson still in the way. 5.7 second gap is the way back to Matthew Thomas. The Byron Johnson is still absolutely... Well, you said it earlier about another rider, but he's in a different postcode at the moment in this championship. He's looking to make it 4 race wins in a row as he sets the fastest lap of 54.215. About 7/10 off the lap record. Of course, these mini motors haven't quite been all over the lap records in this warmer conditions this year that the larger GP bikes have. But it is safe to say Byron Johnson streaking away at the front.
Yeah, as in Jensen Bishop is in a big battle here for 6th place, I believe. And Sam Gardner is also involved in this. Sam Gardner just getting up the inside of Jensen Bishop, actually. And that is another move there from the 25 bike and for Chloe Gleason. And this is just going to hold them up. And this is not what Sam Gardner wants, really, whenever you're involved in such a tight battle, is that he's going to be bridged. Well, the gap's going to get even more and even more to the bikes in front of him, and it's going to leave even less of a chance, because this has slowed down Sam Gardner actually to 56-second lap times. And well, this is not what you want, just 3 laps to go. It's not been a great race for Sam Gardner, but Byron Johnson is set another fastest lap of the race with a 54 dead. And as Ross mentioned, they've not met lap records just yet, and that is just with the high winds and these little bikes of little riders. There's not too much weight, and that is Jensen Bishop diving at the inside and going wide with Chloe Gleason. And Chloe Gleason and Jensen Bishop is in a fierce battle, which is going to work wonders for Sam Gardner, who is up into 6th place.
Yeah, great stuff there. Now only 5/10 of a second off the lap record is Byron Johnson. Some action further down the pack as well. Matthew Thomas and Harrison Day with 3 to go, still rounding out the podium position. Liam Lindqvist has shot his way through. He is currently running a very, very strong P4. Lewis Hull not far behind in P5, and Sam Gardner as well is making his way back through the pack. After that tumble earlier on, he did lead the race briefly at the first lap. It was a shame to see him go down, but now he's showing that he can fight back through the pack. And to be fair, sometimes, going down while in the championship perspective, it's not the, obviously ideal, but sometimes it also is a way to showcase your skills, because it showcases what you can do coming back through a pack, and that is really, really important. When you get, higher up, into motorsport, often, sometimes on our 4-wheeled variant, which shall not be named, sometimes you get reverse grid races. The entire point of that is about, to get riders coming through the pack. And, it's great to see here, Sam Gardner once again streaking his way through.
Yeah, Sam Gardner, he's just done what he's he's just doing what he knows what to do. And Sam Gardner up into 4th place. Can he get a podium? But it's Harrison Day that is in 3rd place that he needs to try bridge a gap to. That is a tough task in itself. Just 1 lap to go. Byron Johnson leads the way by a humongous gap right now. We're just waiting for 2nd place across the line to start their final lap, being Matthew Thomas, who will be absolutely delighted with that result. But it's 12.1 second gap. It's all in Byron Johnson's hand, and Harrison Day and Sam Gardner are still got a decent sized gap. So I think the podium may be decided if all riders can make it cleanly for this last lap. But it's Byron Johnson, who's been highly impressive all race. He's made no mistake. He's forced Sam Gardner into a mistake and forced Sam Gardner to push so hard that he's fallen off, but Sam Gardner has kept a cool head and got back up into 4th place. But it's Byron Johnson who comes into the final sector to come round the final corner now to take the checker flag and the race victory in the race 1 of the AC40 Pros. Byron Johnson wins the race by a massive gap. We wait for Matthew Thomas to come to the line in the bright green bike, but it's Byron Johnson who's absolutely delighted. He's got his visor open because it's scorching here in Suffolk.
It absolutely is a very, very warm day, even with the winds. No, they're not too high, but they're high enough to cause trouble for all these mini motor machines. But a great result there for Byron Johnson. He'll be absolutely delighted with that. Almost 14 seconds up the line. Absolutely dominant. There you can see our top 3, Byron Johnson, Matthew and Harrison Day, back on the podium after that injury and after everything their family's been through. That is a fantastic result. I'm sure that all of his family will be so delighted by that, and to see easing his way back in, that is brilliant stuff for Harrison Day. But it is Byron Johnson taking yet another brilliant victory. Sam Gardner, to be fair to him, did manage to squeeze it back into P4 right at the end after that tumble, so that's great for him. Jensen Bishop as well up to P5. Liam Linkvist, unfortunately, I think he had a tumble coming through the Won't hairpin and fell down to P6 after a very strong ride. But we've seen some great performances here in the AC40 Pros. What a fantastic race we've just seen. Race 1, there is your race winner, Byron Johnson, and here is your top 10 with Matthew Thomas coming home in P2. Harrison Day finishes and rounds out the podium in P3. Sam Gardner managed to get it up to P4 in the end after that tumble. Jensen Bishop was P5. Liam Linkvist unfortunately dropping to P6. Chloe Gleeson is in P7. Oliver Hall in P8. Lewis Hull in P9. And Callum Maxwell rounding out the top 10. And then behind them, Dylan Torian, Rex Austin, Ollie O'Gorman and George Ackerman rounding out the field. What a great race we've just seen there in the AC40 Pros, and of course plenty more action to come over the next day's racing.
And next up is something completely different. It's the Pit Bike 140s. This is some of the craziest racing you're probably going to see all weekend. It has big names in this class, and it has fierce racing in this class. They're almost all identical bikes, and it produces racing that is usually going to the track limits and then beyond that. So track limits may be a massive talking point in this race, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But it's the loudest race of the weekend, actually, and it's not only the loudest but the biggest race of the weekend. There's so many riders in this class. I mean, there's 30 riders taking part in this race, which is, it's something that you don't normally see. But Rossi Banham will be looking for a race victory. Rossi Banham right now leading the way, making them come to the grid. But it's Reece Peacock who will start in pole position, and now Reece Peacock this round, he is so easy to see. I mean, he's in the brightest levers possible, I would say, with Rossi Banham starting in 2nd place, Lucas Brown in 3rd, Taylor Lawrence starting in 4th, with Chris Wells in 5th, Richard Holmes Williams will start in 6th, with Jump Start Jamie King starting in 7th, Nathan Riggy starting in 8th, and Tristan Finocchiaro, previous Fab Racing commentator, now Dorna employee and previous racer himself, will be starting in 9th. Marco Pandolfo will be starting in 10th, with Dan Merrim was starting in 11th, Sean Whittaker in 12th, Liam Wood in 13th, Zach Tureen in 14th, Harley McCabe in 15th, and Sam Smithson starts 16th, rounding off the 8th row of the grid. Thomas Dudson will be starting 17th, Matthew Lindley will be starting 18th, Elliot Crosby 19th, Adam Redden 20th, Chris Geeson 21st, Chadley Witten 22nd,
Giorgio Scarlata. We'll get through the grid eventually. There's a lot of riders. Bear with us, please.
starting 23rd. Paul Whitson 24th. Dean Stitzman starting 25th. Ben Ridwell starting 26th. Paul Coombs 27th. Ben Hitwit will be starting 28th. Paul starting 29th, and Charlie Eagle was starting 30th. That is one long grid and one tongue twister of some names in that.
I mean, there's so many riders wanting to be in this class nowadays that they actually have to take an application. You have to like reserve your spot on the grid per round. So it is absolutely massive. Jumpstart Jamie, as you mentioned, I'm sure he'll be looking for a better run this time out in the Pit Bike 140s. Of course, this is his home race as well at Ellough Park. He's not far down the road from here, so you know this is his home race. But it is, of course, as you mentioned, Reece Peacock, last corner Reece, as opposed to for giving out nicknames, because he's won 2 races this season with last corner overtakes on the final lap. Rossi Banham, championship leader and a vice champion last year, starts alongside him. Lucas Brown is in P3, with Taylor Lawrence, your champion from last year, in P4. And well, now, as you said, Lewis, this is some of the craziest racing that we're going to see all weekend long. These guys are neck and neck, side by side, using all the track limits and then some every single lap of the race. And we've got 12 laps of pit bike action to talk to. It's loud, it's fast, and it is very, very exciting.
Yeah, this is the Pit Bike 140s. They're just making their way around this warm-up lap. They're all mates in this class. They all will have a laugh. They're almost everyone in this class is doing it for fun, and there's a rider, Harrison McKay, pushing his bike off of the grid. Maybe some bike issues. Yeah, I believe so. He's just trying to get something put back on his bike to then hopefully he can start this race. But it's such a big grid that it's going to take so much time for all these riders to arrive that he does have time. But I believe, yep, that is him gave up. He's sat on the tyre wall now. So we are just waiting for the lights to come on. It is Reece Peacock who will start in pole position with Rossi Banham in the front row. All attention will be brought to the lights as we wait for these 30 riders to head down to turn 1. The tension's rising, nerves are building. Although this is for fun, they care. Reece Peacock will be set at lights, everyone's set at lights, and lights are out of the way we go. And now it looks like Rossi Banham leads the way to the first corner. Reece Peacock got quite a bad start, and Taylor Lawrence makes his way into 3rd place. Rossi Banham leads the way from number 29.
As they head through, Rossi Banham into the lead from Reece Peacock. A great start there. Taylor Lawrence as well got a great jump away from the lights. He's in P3. Of course, your reigning champion in those bright green new leathers. He's very easy to spot, isn't he? And now, hold your horses, everyone. Let the first lap do its thing. Let the riders all kind of find their rhythm, and then let battle commence, because I kid you not, oh my goodness me, already look how close Peacock was to the rear wheel of Rossi Banham. Oh, I'm going to lose my voice, aren't I? It's going to be one of those races. Rossi Banham leading the way into Mini Rossi, the corner named after, well, it's got the same name as him. It's not named after him, of course. We spoke to, it was named after earlier. But as we move around, it's Rossi Banham that leads the way on lap 1. And just look at the amount of lean that these guys are getting through these corners. This is a big proper bike. These things are fast on those slick tyres. And Rossi Banham currently controlling this race. One thing to note that we were discussing earlier, Lewis, the lap record, Rossi Banham and Reece Peacock, both of their qualifying times were below the lap record in qualifying before the track's even properly robbered in across the weekend. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, the lap record's going to go. The sun's coming in as well, so we've got time for the track to cool down a little bit as well, because it's probably a little bit too hot right now for them to be challenging. It is Banham from Peacock, from Lawrence, from Chris Wells on P4. Lucas Brown's dropped to P6, unfortunately, but Rossi Banham leading the way once again through Mini Rossi, and Reece Peacock looking quite close. Taylor Lawrence as well behind. That's not Taylor Lawrence, it's a different rider in the bright green leathers there as they cross the line. Reece Peacock fastest lap at 50.076 is that the lap record already. It's been 2 laps. 2 laps and Reece Peacock's got a lap record of 50 dead. Why do I bother? It's a lap record for Reece Peacock. Rossi Banham, though, still leading the race. It's been 2 laps and we've got a lap record. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's exactly what we were expecting to see after the result in qualifying. Rossi Banham leads the way. He was 2/10 slower than Reece Peacock at that time round, but they both were under the lap record. Some smoke coming out of Rossi Banham's bike there, but just 10 laps to go. This 10 laps will go past so quick. Every single corner matters in this class, and it's Rossi Banham who will be pushing 100% into every single corner because he is leading the way with just 9 laps to go. Will we see another lap record? No, we will not, but it's still a 50.4. That would just be 1/10 off the old lap record, and there's confirmation of the lap record. Reece Peacock, a 50.076. That is an incredible lap by an incredible rider in what will be an incredible race with just 9 laps to go. Rossi Banham still leads the way. Taylor Lawrence a little bit off, 1.2 seconds off. We're used to seeing him further up, but maybe he's just biding his time and sussing out Reece Peacock and seeing where he can try and get past, because this Ellough Park circuit is so tight, it's so twisty, and with 30 bikes on track, I think we're going to see lap traffic come into play once again.
Oh, we definitely will. We've already seen lap traffic come into play a few times today. Maybe today we'll get involved as well. Well, Rossi Banham took a sweep here last season, all 3 race victories. Well, he's trying to get it all set off in the same way. He has a quick glance back to see where Reece Peacock is. Sees he's not close enough rather to challenge into turn 1. So it's Banham from Peacock, from Lawrence, still your top 3. Wells Brown has moved back up to P5 as well as Holmes Williams drops back. There's Jay King and his home race at P7, Jumpstart Jamie, Nathan Riggi in P8, Tristan Filocchiaro in P9, Sean Whittaker rounding out the top 10 with 8 laps to go. And honestly, I think Peacock is just playing mind games at this point with Rossi Banham, because we know that Peacock's got, obviously he doesn't know he's got the lap record. He might have known it's a very good lap, but he doesn't know for certain that he's actually got it. So, Rossi Banham smoking, oh dear. Now, we were speaking to Rossi earlier, and we know once again reliability issues were rearing its head on that 196 machine, and smoke once again coming out of the back of Rossi Banham's bike. Now, of course, we're going to touch wood and hope everything's okay, but you know, when something's smoking, it's not a good sign. It's on and off. So hopefully Rossi Banham is able to stay in this race, because he's leading it right now, and he's doing a very, very good job, if I do say so myself. But Reece Peacock isn't making it easy for him. He's still putting the pressure. He's looking to the outside. Taylor Lawrence, about 3 riders just extending the track like there's no tomorrow there. As there is Rossi Banham, your race leader, of course, a former BTC rider, now off doing it's junior super stock, I believe, isn't it, this year that he's off doing. So he's off enjoying the BSB world and leading here in the pit bike 140s. But can his bike hold on, and can he hold on to that lead with the Reece Peacock in tow?
Yeah, I mean, Rossi Banham's going to be trying as hard as he can, but now lap traffic's starting to come into play. But Reece Peacock really has the upper hand here. Although he's in second place, he has all the information, but there's a back marker, and it's really when you hit them and when you get to them is really how this race may be decided. We've seen at Lid, it was decided then there was a collision with a back marker. You just need to try to stay calm, but it's so hard whenever you're leading a race and then back markers get in play. I've seen Taylor Lawrence extending track limits there, let's just say, but Rossi Banham still leads the way. Rossi Banham looks to be in a pretty good lap right now. We see a bit more smoke come out his bike, but it may just be because his bike's running a little bit too rich. So it's Smokey Joe leading the way, let's call him that now. I mean, it's 6 laps to go in this race. We come round the last corner to make it 5. Taylor Lawrence slightly off, but Reece Peacock's still sitting there, seeing where he can pass. It's so hard to pass, as I've already mentioned. And there's another rider in bright green levers, very similar to Taylor Lawrence. A bit more smoke once again coming out Rossi Banham's bike. He'll just be hoping to make it to the end of this weekend at least. But right now, it's all about making it to the end of this race, and for Rossi Banham's sake, in the lead of this race when he crosses the line. And there's another rider stop there.
So yeah, the 272 unfortunately having problems there. That is a big shame for Adam Redding. Looks to be out of this race. Matthew Lindley also had a problem in that lap. I don't know about you, Lewis, but I can smell a not healthy bike smell here in the commentary box. So Reece Peacock is probably getting an absolute face full of some not very pleasant engine smells that shouldn't be coming from the back of Rossi Banham's bike. But there's 4 laps to go. Rossi still holding on to the lead. These two have broken away. Taylor Lawrence too far back to do anything. And once again, Rossi Banham just doing everything he can to hold on to that lead, and again just smoke billowing from the exhaust of that bike. And Reece Peacock still trying to look for a way on. Both of the bikes wiggling under the brakes. They're pushing so hard. Reece Peacock looks to the inside, coming out of Holmes hairpin, but is unable to make the gap appear. as Rossi heads through into the very tight and twisty final section, coming through Clinton's and into Barney's now as he searches his way through. It's I'm really not sure what's going on. Hopefully the bike, it's not gone yet, touch wood. Seems to be okay. It might just be running rich, as you say, Lewis, because performance wise it doesn't seem to be affecting it too badly, as we've got a rider down there coming down through last corner. That is the number 9 Reese Peacock, a 49.918, the first rider into the 49s. That is unbelievable. As we see though, the number 9 down, Dean Stimpson. A shame, hopefully he's okay. But it is Reese Peacock now with another lap record of 49.918. A brilliant lap there. He had one earlier on. He's got another one now with 3 laps to go. He's putting the pressure on Rossi Banham.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Rossi Banham has got to know that he's still in his tail. You've seen multiple times this race, he's just looking behind, seeing if Reese Peacock is still there, and he is every single time. There's nothing separating them, just 3 laps to go in this race. Rossi Banham's bike still getting little puffs of smoke. Maybe that is just unburnt, feeling it running a bit too rich, but we come across the line to make it 2 laps to go. Rossi Banham still leads the way. Reese Peacock just 3/10 back. He has all the information, as I mentioned earlier, and he's learned all this race. He may just be leaving it till the last lap. I mean, if he made the last lap, Rossi Banham would not be expecting it, as he's led the way and he thinks that he is in control of this race, but Reese Peacock would say otherwise happily. I mean, just 2 laps to go. Taylor Lawrence still in 3rd place. Consistent race for him, but 4.5 seconds back, so he'll be definitely going to the drawing board for the next race, seeing where he can improve as we come around the chicane to the hairpin. Reese Peacock still on Rossi Banham's tail, coming around the left and then to the right, which will be the final corner to make it to the last lap of this race. Rossi Banham leads the way, but will it stay that with 1 lap to go? Will we be saying Rossi Banham wins the race or Reese Peacock wins the race? Let's find out. Reese Peacock on the back, he looks so determined. You can see from his body language and his riding style. Rossi Banham, a big puff of smoke coming out the back of his bike in Reese Peacock's face. That'll be slightly distracted, but Reese Peacock trying to find a different line, taking a slightly wider line, while Rossi Banham makes no room for Reese Peacock to head down the inside. Reese Peacock though on his tail, they're practically glued together. They're coming around to the last half of the race. They've passed the chicane now to the final sector, to the final hairpin before we head round to the final couple of corners. There's a back marker in the way. Rossi Banham dives up the inside. Will this affect Reese Peacock? Reese Peacock also gets through, but a gap has slightly formed. We head around the final corner and it's Rossi Banham to win the race. The first race of pit by 140s by just 0.2 of a second. There, as you can see, once again, Rossi Banham, a little wheelie, the little wave to Reese Peacock. They're both mates. They both will have enjoyed that. And Taylor Lawrence brings it home with a 7.5 second gap to round off the podium.
Yeah, great stuff there from Rossi Banham's hold on Reese Peacock, pushing him all of the way. And as you said, Lewis, that real family community of Fab here continues in the pit lane of the 40s. A real tight-knit and real close community. And I mean, there you can see the top 3 as well. Rossi Banham, Reese Peacock P2, reigning champion Taylor Lawrence in P3 as well. And that was a great race, and I say that, you know, wholeheartedly, because by pitbike standards that was probably quite dull, to be honest. Not a lot really went on by pitbike standards, but outside of pitbike standards that was brilliant. Rossi Banham, your overall winner there. Reese Peacock in P2, Taylor Lawrence rounds out the podium with Chris Wells in P4, Lucas Brown is P5, Jumpstart J King in P6, Nathan Riggy is P7, Tristan Finocchiaro improves up to P8, with Sean Whitaker and Zach Torian rounding out the top 10. That concludes your pit bike action for today. But of course, don't be afraid, because we go all of the race 2s and race 3s and all of the categories tomorrow to look forward to. So make sure that you're tuning in to enjoy some more Fab Racing action across the Sunday.
And next up we have the mini F1 sidecars, and well, we're waiting for 2 wheels to come off the track before we have 3 wheels come onto the track, and with 2 riders on such a small bike. And yeah, it's been some good racing throughout the whole field this year. I mean, obviously Williams has been winning, but there's many riders wanting to put a stop to that, and I think if anyone can put a stop to that, they'll be absolutely delighted as we wait for the final couple riders just to make their way off the circuit and push their bikes back to the pit lane before we can get underway. But it's the green streaks, you know, they're probably what you would say the best hope for a new race winner, but it's the Keats wanting another podium. The last round, it wasn't really what they were wanting, but that's the thing in sidecar racing. Sometimes they can be a little bit fiddly, and they're so complicated. I mean, it's two riders on one motorcycle, really, and it's two minds as one. You've got the passenger that's actually, their job is just to steer the bike and get around the track, while the driver's doing the gears and the clutch. Well, on these, obviously, the mini F1 sidecars, we do not have gears, so it's just the throttle, the brakes, you know, it's the normal inputs while the passenger's doing all the work just to get them round that corner. And it's such a difficult class that takes so much trust in your passenger. We were speaking to Mark Parker earlier, and he was actually just telling us how much trust it takes for you to have a passenger, and how much the passenger does. I believe he said 95% of the work on these mini F1 sidecars is, well, it's the passenger.
It is, absolutely. I mean, obviously, sidecars are, they're an art form of their own. And I mean, the mini F1 sidecars, it's the niche within the niche, as I like to call it, as it's, it's such a small kind of community within a very small community, and obviously built by the riders themselves as well. It's a really, tough job to do, and a lot of the dedication goes into it. Of course, sidecars, it's such an intriguing sector of the sport, and obviously it's a very dangerous sector of the sport as well, unfortunately. Of course, the recent events at the Isle of Man TT will put a test, and of course our thoughts go out to all of the families that have been affected by that. And these are mini F1 sidecars, well, they don't quite have the speed, shall we say, of a full-blown sidecar. It's the lack of size that's more dangerous than anything, because you're essentially stood on a little metal plate that's not even a metre square. It's it's ridiculously small what the passengers are riding on, and the passengers, they're the ones who are really putting in the work, because they're the ones hopping over the bike and doing this and doing that and everything. And it is a really, really tough job to have, and a lot of effort goes into it. And of course, you mentioned, could anyone else stop Mick Williams? I mean, he's won every single race for the past few seasons in a row now. Maybe today's the day where something changes, who knows, but it is Mick Williams that goes from the pole position. The Green Streets moving off alongside them from P2, with the Keats bike in P3, the 666 machine, and the Bailey machine, the 369 machine in P4. Mark Parker on the 230 goes off in P5, with Chris Impey in P6, and a new bike here, the 111, Kyle Masters. He starts at the back in P7 as the riders head off on their formation lap. Of course, there is Mick Williams, Mr. Mini F1 sidecar, and his passenger as well. Of course, there's no guarantee he could win, but if I was a betting man, he'd be the one I'd be putting my money on. But of course, anything can happen in Fab Racing, anything can happen in motorsport, and who knows what's going to happen in race 1 of the Mini F1 sidecars.
Yeah, we would just wait for these riders to head down to the starting grid for what I'm sure will be a great race. Green Street will be wanting to get off that line straight away and make the best start possible. Green Street being the number 90. It's quite a modern style, actually, looking sidecar compared to Mick Williams, which is more of the older look. These bikes are all built by them, and every single one is unique in its own way. So we wait for the final riders just to make their way. As you can see, Roger, the race director, and start marshal waiting at the lights as all the riders start to look at the lights as Roger gets ready to put his finger on the button to put the lights on, then the lights off. They all look up to the lights. Lights are on and lights are off, and we go racing for the sidecars, and Green Street has made quite a good start, but Keats wants to read the way, and Keats already outside at turn 1, but Green Street has the inside line and will have the inside line for the next corner, but it's Keats in second place with Mick Williams leading the way.
I almost thought there was contact. They tried to go 3 wide into turn 1, and Degnar 1 as it's called. I believe it's named after the corner of Suzuka. And a bit of a judder through the hairpin and up on 2 wheels. Oh my goodness me, 2 wheels there for the Keats machine, the 666. That is not what you want to be doing on a 3-wheel machine. Nearly going end over end. They managed to keep it going, and they managed to just about hold about onto P3. But as you can see, they are really committed to those corners, aren't they? Popping up everywhere they go. But the Green Street's managing to lock into P2 as a result of that. Vince Bailey as well, chasing behind the 369 bike. But it will be Mick Williams leading the way on lap 1, the Green Street in P2. And then the Keats machine after that really strong start just making a little mistake, nearly going over. And they're P3, but they've also surpassed at the fastest lap of the race, so I think the timing screen just had a moment. Of course, it is the first lap. The fastest lap will approach shortly afterwards. But yeah, that could have been a very, very scary incident. And as well, going 3 wide into Degner 1 down at turn 1, I thought there was going to be an accident there. They did very well to all avoid each other. I mean, these things, obviously, they're very, very wide. Even though they're mini sidecars, you know, they are wide, you know, they're big old beasts in mini bike racing terms anyway. And so they did really well to avoid each other. And yeah, well, I'm sure that 666 machine counting their lucky stars that they haven't got a sore head and a very broken bike after nearly flipping.
Yeah, I mean, it was a close moment from them. And one thing you can see as they head round the right-hander is just how close the rider gets to the ground. I mean, the helmet's always scraping off the ground and they're practically hugging the driver. It's such a tight space, and that's just to save on some weight and make it as aerodynamic as possible. But just 5 laps to go in this race, it comes past so quick. And one thing you also notice is that these riders have no knee sliders on, obviously, because they do not get their knee down. But the passengers do have knee sliders on their bum, as whenever they're turning left, they pull their bars out and then they scrape. Well, they can sometimes scrape their bum on the ground, so it's just to save their levers and not get tugged by the ground. So just 5 laps to go. It's still Greenstreet in second, who's the closest contender to McWilliams, who has set the fastest lap of the race with a 57.372. But Jacob Keats, it's still in 3rd place. I mean, they can't really be too disappointed after that first lap drama. But on your screen right now, you have the number 230, I believe. So just 4 laps to go in this race. Greenstreet, as you can see on your screen, in the modern style sidecar, both of them obviously being family members. It's such trust that they have, which sometimes is why you see quite a lot of families running sidecars together, is because you already have that internal trust, because they are a family member. You've had that trust since you were born, basically.
I mean, it's also, I think part of it comes down to anybody who's not born into it looks and goes, that's mental, I'm staying well away from that, and going and riding and driving normal things. You know, that's why you do see a lot of a sidecar, the kind of family things. I mean, I come from a sidecar family myself, and my granddad actually never let my uncle step foot in a sidecar because he thought it was too dangerous. So my uncle went and did karting instead. He's like, no, not letting you do that, sorry. You know, it is completely insane, frankly, that someone is willing. Obviously, you know, in mini F1 sidecars, yes, you know, you're not hitting, 200 odd miles an hour, but, you're hanging off a very, very small kind of space, and you're sticking your head inches from the ground, next to other cars. It is one of the most ludicrous forms of motorsport you can find on the planet. It is, I mean, obviously sidecars have existed, for a long time. The idea of a sidecar in itself, it's not like an actual proper, road going sidecar. They don't really exist anymore. They've kind of fallen out of fashion. But sidecar racing is still very, very popular, still very much around. And even then, you look at the people who get into it and go, are you a bit mental? Because I honestly have no idea. I mean, part of the joy of being a Fab Racing commentator is you get to see sometimes people get in sidecars. Some of our Fab Racing commentators in the past have had to go in sidecars, including people like Tristan Finocchiaro, who we were looking at earlier in the pit bikes race, and he's ridden international level motorcycle races, and he was scared completely to the bone. Like he was as the passenger was sat there completely rigid. But you can go and find the video on YouTube somewhere. It is, I want to say it's fun. I obviously feel bad for him at the same time because it's such a unique experience. As we look at the leader, Mr. Mini F1 sidecar himself, Mick Williams, who is once again running away. 6.7 seconds is the gap. He's a passenger doing a perfect demonstration of what I mean by leaving nothing on the table, hanging out on the bike. All it takes is a mistake from the passenger, or indeed Mick Williams, for both of these two to potentially get hurt in an accident. Again, that is the trust and the level of responsibility that comes with racing sidecars, and it's Mick Williams who is once again dominating the race, coming around Mini Rossi now and onto the final lap of this event. There you can see the last lap flag out, the yellow flag with the black stripe on the left hand side. of your screen, and it's Mick Williams once again. The rumours in the paddock state that he actually gives back his medals and his championship trophies because he wins so much. He may as well save Fab Racing a bit of dosh, and may as well just let them give it to him next time out, and the next time, and the next time, and so on and so forth. So good is this pairing on the sidecar. Obviously, the sidecar is brilliant, but the rider and the passenger are brilliant as well. Mick Williams has got half a lap to go to secure yet another victory. I honestly couldn't tell you the last time that he didn't win a race. Genuinely, it has been absolutely phenomenal as Mick Williams comes around the final section now. Won every race last season. He's already won every race so far this season, and he looks to cap off another brilliant weekend, opening with a victory. It's Mick Williams who rounds the final corner, and the checkered flag waves for an absolutely dominant performance from the number 26 machine. It's another victory for Mick Williams, but who else was it going to be on the top step? The Green Street will come home with a very respectable P2. And of course, best of the rest, but they are no match for that number 26. Vince Bailey on the 369 is going to come home a great P3 for him there with the 666 machine. After that nearly flip early on, will come home in P4. Mark Park will be P5 with Chris Impey P6, and Carl Masters in their first event. They round out the pack, but of course it takes a bit of time getting used to this in a racing environment. So of course it's all about living and learning. So to even finish the race is a very, very respectable performance there from Kyle Masters to round out the finishing places in P7. But it's Mick Williams once again gives a wave to the camera. Of course, another rider that we interviewed. We did a lot of interviews this morning, myself and Lewis, and of course you can see all of them if you are tuning in tomorrow for the race 2s and the race 3s, whether you be tuning in on the Fab Racing or the Motorsport Radio or whatever account you may be on, Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or anywhere really. We're kind of all over the internet at the moment, aren't we? But it's great to see Mick Williams with another dominant performance. Is that someone potentially breaking down maybe on the unlap? That might be the 666 machine having a moment. No, it's still going. It's, well, looking out the commentary box window, it's crawling in a little bit slowly, but we'll have to see.
But yeah, it was a great race there from Mick Williams, and we're speaking to Mera, as you mentioned with the interview, and they absolutely still love it, and that is why they're still so dominant, and that's why they're still doing it even after, I believe, haven't lost a championship since 2013, and was the last time they didn't win a championship, if I'm correct. But next up on this, for the second last race of the day, actually, we have the LC40 Elites.
Of course, the LC40 Elites, time for their race 1. This is the top mini-moto category for your junior riders. Of course, the LC stands for liquid cool because these bikes are liquid, but they don't have to be. You get a lot of riders entering this liquid cool class on their AC40s, their air-cooled 40 Pro bikes, because the liquid cool, if you were to go into it, you're not going to spend much time on it before you're moving on to the GP bikes. A lot of people want to save money, and that's a good regulation there, to be fair, from Fab Racing. Trying to save parents, trying to cut costs a bit. And that is another thing that Fab Racing is really good at as well, is that they keep the cost down as low as they can, and that is great because obviously money is unfortunately everything in motorsport, and sometimes there is only so far as you can go. But here at Fab Racing, the costs are kept very, very low, which is great. And of course, again, if you want to get involved, you can go and check out on the Fab Racing website to see what I mean, and find out any more information which you'd like to see there. And of course, we'd love to have you along and get involved here at Fab Racing. But this, of course, ages 7 to 13 can compete in this LC40 Elite Championship. The main difference between, of course, the liquid cooled and the air-cooled bikes, apart from, of course, the different cooling systems, is there is no exhaust restriction on these mini-motors. They are able to go 56 miles an hour, which for some young riders is, well, I'm not that much older than them, really, in the grand scheme of things, and even I'm getting like, that's a bit too fast for your age, surely. They are absolutely rapid little things, and they provide some fantastic racing as well.
Yeah, they certainly do, and it's what should be a great race, but I see one of the Johnsons just having an issue right now trying to get the bike started going out the holding area before they line up on the grid to do their one warm-up lap. And yeah, it's quite a big grid this time around. Obviously the AC40 Pro bikes can be used in this race, and we've seen some fast times from the AC40 Pros. I mean, Byron Johnson has had a great qualifying, and I believe he's starting in pole position, or meant to be starting in pole position if he can get his bike started here. There's Will will he get out for the race? I believe it may be starting now. Yes, it is. So he's just going to make his way to the grid as quick as he can and make his way out so he can start the race on pole position from his brother Austin. It's a Johnson front row even, and well, the family will be absolutely delighted with that. Obviously, some names you may already recognise from watching the racing earlier was Sam Gardner, Harrison Day, Matthew Thomas, Jensen Bishop, Chloe Gleason, Liam Lindquist. There's so many names that came from the AC40 Pro class to then racing the LC40 Elite class, which really shows, as you mentioned, Ross, with the cost-cut measures, that they are working.
Well, it's not just cost-cutting measures as well, because you get all these people coming along from the AC40. There's also extra track time as well, which is really important because, at that, young stage of your career, obviously, you want to be out and you want to be, riding because it's fun. But also, from a performance perspective, you want to be spending as much time on the bike as you can. You want to be performing as much as you can. You want to be, just pushing yourself as much as you can. Austin Johnson currently leads this championship. He's going off row 2 alongside his brother. He's taken 4 wins out of 6 races. Unfortunately, his main rival so far this season, Finley Polehill, having a broken arm, so he won't be out there this weekend, so potentially dropping place in the championship. But it is Byron Johnson on the air-cooled bike. He's managed to get going. He's going off a pole position. His brother, Austin championship leader, starts alongside him. Sam Gardner starts from P3 with Harrison Day in P4. Matthew Thomas is P5. Jensen Bishop starts in P6. Chloe Gleason is in 7th. Liam Lindquist in 8th. Dylan Torian is 9th. And Oliver Hall rounds out the top 10, of course, your reigning rookies champion. Then running up the grid, it's Callum Maxwell in P11 and George Ackerman in 12th. The LC40s, it's always a very close, or the Elites as I should rather call it, because we've got more air-cooled bikes on here than liquid-cooled at this point. It's always a very, very close category. And of course, it's the last step in a mini-moto career of a young rider, unless of course they choose to come back and compete in the mini motors, and people like Holly Harris have done that, but no, before they move on to the GP bikes and bigger and better things, this is the last time, this is the primary focus of their career, and this is a very important season for many of them. It's a very important race for many of them, with the Johnson brothers starting on the front row. The younger brother Byron starts on the front, in front of the older brother. The flag marshal goes away. You can see the lights go on. Lights off, we're underway for race 1 of the LC40 Elite, and it's a great start from Sam Gardner once again, but it is Austin Johnson who takes the lead into turn 1 from P2. But Sam Gardner, second time he started the race today, and his second time he's had an absolutely lightning getaway. Brilliant stuff from him. That means that Byron Johnson drops down to P3, but it is a fantastic start from Sam Gardner. I apologise, it's actually Byron Johnson leading the way from Austin Johnson in P2. So it's Byron on the air-cooled bike who's got the better getaway. Sam Gardner manages slides P3. Austin's in P3 so far. If we get this race off, we've still got a long way to go. 8 laps to go in this race, penultimate race of the day, the first race of the LC40 weekend. And it's Byron Johnson on the air-cooled bike leading the way.
Yeah, as Sam Gardner is just going to be looking at the back of Byron Johnson, just trying to learn as much as he can in his first couple laps before Byron tries and just goes off into the distance, which it already looks like he's starting to do. I mean, that's a pretty sizable gap. And his brother, actually, Austin Johnson, sitting the fastest lap of the race. That is of a 57.2 on that first lap.
Gardner.
Yeah, he's just got through, and it looks like actually Sam Gardner's transponder had a little glitch there on that first lap, but it's all sorting now. Sam Gardner drops down to 3rd place with Byron Johnson still leading the way. Oliver Hall got pushed down to 10th, but Oliver Hall, of course, first run on the Mini GP 50, second run actually this weekend at a race weekend on the Friday, so he's learning quite a lot. And Oliver Hall actually last year had a clean sweep of wins in the rookie class, so he has some great history here, and he's going to want to try and repeat it, but he's in 10th place right now, so it doesn't look like it's going to happen this race. But there's race 2 and 3 tomorrow, but it's Byron Johnson who leads the way. The number 37 leads the way by 1 second last lap. What's it going to be this lap? 1.5, half a second of one lap, and sitting the fastest lap of the race with a 54.5 that time round. That's a great lap, and keep in mind Byron is on the air-cooled bike.
Yeah, the younger brother of Austin in P2, Byron Johnson leading the way. Of course, he's clearly enjoying his time at this track. He's clearly just found a zone that he can be in. He just loves this track from what we can tell, and he's just so quick around here as well. Austin on that liquid-cooled bike, not quite enjoying the same pace, but still P2 for the time being. Still having to hold on with 7 laps to go. Sam Gardner still holding on to P3 as well, of course. He was in the fight for the Pros race earlier on, but unfortunately had a fall near the end of the race. Matthew Thomas, though, up to P4, and Harrison Day, P5 as well. Of course, Harrison back on the bike after what has been a very tough few weeks for himself and his family. Great to see him running in P5, but it's still Byron Johnson, another fastest lap of the race, 53.666, a little way off of the lap record set by Archie Gibbs last year, but it's a pretty good lap nonetheless, and more importantly, it's nearly a second faster than his brother, and the gap now 2 seconds, actually 2.1 if you want to be exact, separating the front runners. Sam Gardner, meanwhile, as I said earlier, in P3, having a great run of races so far today. I'm sure he'll be looking to finish this one in P3, of course. Unfortunately, having a fall earlier on in the AC40 Pros race.
Yeah, he did, and it's definitely a better race this time round. Third place right now, he'll be happy with that. But it's Byron Johnson who will be absolutely delighted as he set a 53.666. He's got a 2.1 second gap, which looks like it's already increased just in one lap, and that's a 2.9 second gap. It's a Johnson 1-2. The family will be absolutely delighted, and Byron will just be wanting to keep cool now. He may have had a look behind him just to see it's his brother behind him, which on a racetrack it doesn't actually matter if it's your brother or not. On the racetrack they're ruthless, they try the hardest. It doesn't matter if it's a brother or someone else. They will try absolutely everything to make their way past you and get the best time possible. But Byron Johnson, he's put in a superb performance. You can just see how confident and at one he is with this motorcycle. He's just flicking it through that chicane there, down the small straight before the hairpin, placing it down on his knee. You can just see he trusts the tyres so much, and it's perfect conditions for them. Although it is windy, as we mentioned earlier, it's sunny, it's warm, the track temperature is warm now, it's up, it's so grippy for these young riders, so they'll really be learning a lot. And Byron Johnson comes across the line to make it 4 laps to go with a 3.6 second lead.
Yeah, absolutely. So Byron Johnson with 4 to go, having a pretty dominant hold on this race, but of course it may not end that way. Anything can happen here at Fab Racing, so keep your eyes peeled on that gap. We know as well that he was having trouble to start the bike, so maybe some mechanical issues could be coming into play. Of course, touch wood, hopefully it doesn't, but well, you never know. Further back, some action as well. Liam Lindquist fighting Jensen Bishop there, I believe. Yes, it is. As Bishop trying to put the pressure on Liam Lindquist in front. Looking for a way through, but Liam holding firm at the moment. He's been a pretty solid rider so far this season, hasn't Liam Lindquist? He's had a few DNFs, unfortunately, but overall results have been pretty consistent so far. And similarly for Jensen Bishop, a couple of DNFs, but overall very consistent results. That's what really matters at this phase. It's not about kind of win or bust, which you might see some of the higher up classes. It's more about just getting consistent on the bike, developing and honing the skills, because this is the last time you've really got time to learn the basic fundamentals. As you see it still here, Lindquist and Bishop following through behind them as well, battling Gleeson and Oliver Hall for P8. Now this is the last time really before you jump on the GP bikes. You've got time to learn and master the basic fundamentals of motorcycle racing. Or after this, it's all about learning. Learning takes a back seat. It's all about just progressing. This is still very much the learning stage of your motorcycle career. This is the last chance for these riders to do that.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, Liam Lindquist, he learned something last race as he did jump start, but he got a far better start this time round. He probably would be a bit tentative, just trying not to make that same mistake. But Liam Lindquist, of course, with that 2017 Yamaha MotoGP livery inspired on his bike, because of course a lot of these kids do watch MotoGP and are inspired by it, and this is why this series is so appealing to them, because this is the road to MotoGP with just 2 laps to go. The Johnsons lead the way with a 1-2, and Sam Gardner still sitting there in third, but it's Byron out front by a country mile by 6.5 seconds, which is something that we're not usual to see. But it's Chloe Gleeson getting overtaken there by Oliver Hall, but will Chloe Gleeson try and find a way past? Chloe Gleeson needs to get everything tucked in, trying to get as aerodynamic as possible. Every single thing matters on these small mini motos, but Oliver Hall is trying to make a run for it, but Chloe Gleeson, one of the females in the paddock, will not let this go. She's trying absolutely everything. She's on the throttle, she's tucked in, she's trying everything. Just 2 laps to go in this race, and they will not let us go easy. I mean, this is only race 1 of the weekend, but it matters. This is the last race of the day, so it's the only race of the day as well. And look at that, coming for the chicane, absolute commitment from both of them. And it's Johnson who still leads me by 7.1 seconds now as riders head on to their last lap. We see Harrison Day just coming across the line. As Ross mentioned, a tough few weeks for the family, but they bounce back harder than ever. I mean, Harrison, he's putting all focus right now into his race and putting everything else in the back of his mind. And Oliver Hall still in front of Chloe Gleason. Chloe Gleason, though, will have seen that last lap flag and will be trying as hard as they can. But Harrison Day is still on your screen, still absolutely committed to racing motorcycles, which is great to see. So much confidence and commitment at such a young age. But it's still Byron Johnson who leads the way, and Sam Gardner just coming into the last couple of corners of the lap. And there we see, coming across the line, Byron Johnson winning the race. It was a superb ride from him, and his brother Austin just coming towards the line now with an 8.6 second gap coming across the line. Matthew Thomas actually overtaking Sam Gardner on that last lap. That was an incredible move at some point there. He must have tried his absolute hardest, and Sam Gardner getting pushed down to 4th. Harrison Day comes across the line to take 5th place. He'll be pretty happy with that. This is the LC40 Elite race, so it's quite a large. And Liam Winquist, look at that. That is a celebration and a half. Hands up in the air, no hands on the bike. But there's your top 3. Byron Johnson takes the race win from Austin Johnson and Matthew Thomas.
There you go. Liam Lindqvist, I mean, it's P6, it's, kind of middle of the road, but even then that just shows how much even just finishing the race and, doing well in battles means to these young riders. That was a pure joy. I've won this fight, even if it wasn't for much, but it's still, still a points-paying position. There we see Byron Johnson, race winner, 9 seconds. A huge gap between them, between himself and his brother Austin in P2. Meanwhile, Matthew Thomas just pipping Sam Gardner to P3 at the line, with Harrison Day in P5. Again, as always, great to see him back on the bike. Liam Lindqvist is in 6th, Jensen Bishop 7th, Oliver Hall in 8th, Chloe Gleason 9th, and Callum Maxwell running up the top 10. Dylan Torian finished 11th, and George Ackerman rounded out the grid.
And our final race of the day will be the senior mini motos, and well, we're sticking to mini motos. Finished off the day, we've just seen one race, and this race will be completely different. I mean, there's a lot of big names in this class. There's Will Howarth, who's already won the race today in a dominant fashion, so I think he'll definitely be wanting to repeat that. And of course, both the Birkin brothers, which Ross, I think you can agree, will they both stay on? That's a real question in this race.
Yep. Well, senior mini motos is... It's on a mini motor bike. That is about as close as you get to the other mini motor categories. These guys out there, I think insane is the word I'd use. For starters, who as a fully grown adult looks at a mini moto and goes, yeah, I want to race that? That's just, that takes a different level of crazy as is. And then they go out there and provide some of the most fantastic racing and the fantastic battles that we get race after race, weekend after weekend. And, they get battered up and bruised, and they're always falling off the bikes. They're making just, frankly, silly moves. And yet, every single time, they still show up and they still put in a fantastic performance. And it's great to see a big grid of the mini motos for the senior category here. Once again, 21 riders making up the grid. And well, I'm sure if you'll watch some of the interviews tomorrow as well that me and Lewis did, you'll be seeing, our interview with Harris, we'll be seeing some of what we mean by the mini moto riders being mental. You'll see Matt Birkin running around half naked in the back of one of the interviews, and that's what we caught on camera as well. It was worse off camera, trust me. I won't. You'll have to see it to believe it. Yeah, but let's focus away from Matt Birkin's shirtless antics and let's focus on what we've got coming up here. We've got his brother Josh sitting on pole position, Will Howarth alongside him, and then Matt in P3. It's kind of all the usual suspects at the front as we'd expect here in mini moto here, Lewis. But once again, I'm sure we're expecting a crazy race. Yeah, we're expecting elbows out, absolutely to the white lines, using every single inch of track, and then maybe some, but we do know that this round they are enforcing some track limits and quite strict track limits regulations to keep racing as fair as possible. But it's quite a big grid, as you mentioned, 21 riders, 21 grown riders, and well, some talent as well. All these riders are of course talented, but we do have some riders from different championships, such as Holly Harris, who is of course a British Talent Cup rider, but I believe there's some riders in the wrong grid slot, which with such a big grid is understandable, to be honest, as they head out on their warm-up lap. Absolutely. Why don't we run through the grid, shall we? Josh Birkin starts on pole position with Will Howarth in P2. Matt Birkin starts in P3. Richard Holmes-Williams is in 4th place. Craig Ashell is 5, and British Talent Cup rider Holly Harris starts in P6. Chris Yeomans is 7th alongside Nick Bennett. Ross Michael is 9th. Callum White rounds out the top 10. Further back, we've got Rhys Gentry in 11th with Elliot Searle in 12th. Shannon King is 13th. David Meyer in 14th. Rick Goosey is 15th. And then in 16th, we have Neil Skinner. Rue Wild is 17th. Duncan Dyko is 18th. Jessica Lucas is 19th. And Steve Johns is 20th. And rounding out the grid is Rob Gentry in P21. Well, that is a very packed grid of mini motos that we have there. And well, once again, I think we're expecting balls to the wall mini moto action. Zero holds barred racing. And of course, you're looking at Matt Birkin, Will Howarth, Josh Burke and Chris Yeomans. Those guys all finishing 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the championship last year. Of course, the eventual champion, Mr. Minimoto, Bernie Hook, entering his retirement. If you're watching along at home, Bernie, hello. Please come back. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Please come back, we miss you. But it is Will Howarth currently leading this championship. He's won 5 of the 6 races so far, and he's currently sitting in a very pretty P2 on the grid. It's the final race of the afternoon, the final race ones of the weekend, but don't worry, because after this, tune in tomorrow, we'll have all of the race 2s and 3s, plenty more action for you to enjoy as we get ready for the final race of the day. And it's one of the most crazy, one of the most eventful races of the day. It's the Senior Mini Motos, and the lights come on. Lights off. I think it was a bit of a jump start there almost for Richard Holmes-Williams, but it will be Will Howarth taking the lead into turn 1 from Josh Birkin in P2. Matt Birkin looks like he did get the best of starts, but it is indeed Will Howarth even leading the way from 2nd place on the grid. Josh Birkin in at P2, Matt Birkin into P3, so it wasn't the best of start, but he's managed to hold on to the position that he started in further back. Holly Harris challenging Richard Holmes-Williams for P4, so we've got some changing already, but once again Will Howarth, who's been so dominant this season so far, takes the lead of the race at turn 1.
Yeah, he does, and he's going to try and replicate exactly what he did in the Moto Team race, and that is get out front, make a gap, and keep increasing that gap as this race is quite hectic. Sometimes back markers can come into play, but he's trying to lead out front, coming out of lap 1, just 8 laps to go in this race. This race will come past in a flash. I mean, there's so much talent. I mean, Richard Holmes-Williams, the tractor, as we mentioned earlier, in 4th place, battling with Holly Harris, and I believe Holly Harris has got a better. Yes, she has. Holly Harris is up in 4th place. Can she get a podium? It's both the Birkins brothers in front of her, so it's pretty fast riders in front of her. This whole race is really fast. I mean, all these riders can battle for the win. As you can see, both the Birkins brothers battling each other. Although they're brothers, they do not care. They are balls to the wall. They are elbows out. They are pushing each other to the limit. But it's a good start actually from Craig Ashell, as he's not lost any positions, but he's not gained any either, so he's in the right position to pick up the pieces if he's needed, really. Nick Bennett making quite a bad start, down into 10th after the first lap. That is not what he would be wanting, but it is still Will Howarth who leads the way as we come across the line to end lap 2. Will Howarth leads the way by just a gap of 1.1 seconds, so it has bridged. Well, yeah, he's set the fastest lap once again, and he's about 0.6 faster that lap. So Will Howarth clearly showing no stopping, as Holly Harris is still in this battle with the tractor as he tries to get away. That is, of course, Richard Holmes-Williams.
Of course, Will Howarth actually already holds the lap record here from last year, 53.014. So he's only 0.3 off the lap record at the moment, so you never know, we could actually be seeing a mini moto lap record being broken today, or maybe tomorrow, who knows, we'll have to wait and see. But it is Will Howarth leading the way. As you said, the Birkins, it's Josh leading Matt for P2 and P3, Holly Harris up to P4. Lovely move there by her, doing very, very well. And Craig Ashell, meanwhile, P5, Rhys Gentry P6, Ross Michael in 7th, Chris Yeomans 8th, and then Nick Bennett is 9th with Callum White in P10.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great start there from Will Howarth. As we've already said, the gap's now down to 1 second though, so Josh Birkins and Matt Birkins running off the podium, they'll be happy with that. It's something that's not unusual to see. And on your screen, Holly Harris 9 seconds off the lead, not too far off. She's still in a distance where she could potentially win the race. Of course, a British Talent Cup rider and a part of the FHO team, which is bringing so much young female talent up through the ranks, really give them a support system and be able to help them get up through the ranks of racing, all the way from Minimotos and British Talent Cup all the way to places like Superbike, Super Stock, and even the TT that they're in now in sidecars. So it's a real... Oh, and Holly Harris is actually pulling into the pits.
No.
She's got some sort of issue. You can see the frustration. She hit the bike as she pulled into the pits. Commentator's curse, as I was just talking about her.
Oh, what a shame for Holly Harris. A problem with the bike. Pulls in. That looks to be her race done, unless there's a magical solution. Big shame. She was having such a great race as well. I mean, she's always on the verge of a podium whenever she turns up for the mini motos. Big shame. But, you know, that's racing. Sometimes doesn't quite go your way. Sometimes luck is not on your side, and it is not on the side of Holly Harris today. But of course, you can always try again. Race 2 and 3 tomorrow, as always. Make sure you're tuning in, and if you are tuning in, and of course, thank you for being with us here for the day's worth of action here at round 3 of the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championship here at Ellough Park. And of course, if it's been your first time joining us, hello and welcome. We hope you've enjoyed all the fun, and there is plenty more to come tomorrow. But for now, it's not all over yet on this Saturday. 5 laps to go in race 1 of the Senior Mini Motos, the final race of Saturday afternoon, and it is Will Howarth. There you can see him cutting through some traffic. Your leader, Josh Birkin in P2 and Matt Birkin in P3. Craig Gasler and Chris Yeomans rounding out the top 5. It's all about really kind of getting to the end of this race, really, for these Senior Mini Motos guys, I feel. It's a very, very physical track. Obviously, it's late in the day as well. Lots of rubber's been laid down. It's hot. Everyone's probably feeling a little bit tired as well. They've been up all day and travelling yesterday and the day before, I'm sure, as well. So this one, I get the feeling it's more just get it to the end of the race in one piece. You know, let's save it all for tomorrow, because you know it is a tough track out there to ride on a mini moto. You know, it's very, very difficult, and you know let's just say they're usually banging into each other at every corner, shall we say? So I get the feeling that this is very much a just take it chill and get it to the end of the race.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, we're at this time of night where the sun's down slightly and the sun really starts getting in your eyes, so having a dark visor like the Birkin brothers do right now on your screen, it really helps you just deal with that sunlight, while Will Howarth has a clear visor. So there'll be some corners and sometimes on the straight where he'll be slightly closing his eyes, squinting his eyes, because the sun is that strong. It's at that terrible angle where it really starts to mess with you. But Will Howarth still leads the way by just 1.9 seconds, so it's not like what we've seen in the Moto Team race where he just went away and, well, swept the field. It's at this position now where Josh and Matt can still jump on him if he makes a slight issue. But as we've seen earlier, Holly Harris retiring. I did just remember, actually, in qualifying 2 today, she also had issues with the bike. She was sitting at the side of the track, and maybe it's the same issue, they just haven't managed to crack down on. Of course, these are mini moto machines that are 2 strokes, which have been known to be a little bit unreliable. I mean, just one little air change can mess with these bikes sometimes, with the carburetors and the jetting inside the carburetors. But Will Howarth making his way round the outside through some lap traffic there, done absolutely brilliantly. And the lap traffic just staying on its line like you're told to do throughout racing. It's just let the faster person get past you, and that's just been shown there. But it looks like actually the Birkins have bridged the gap between Will Howarth. The gap was down to just the 0.8 of a second last time round, and we head round to the final section of the track, just coming past pit lane through this chicane down this short run. It's quite a short straight through the final hairpin of the track before we head into this left-hander, which then leads on to a sweeping right, which is called the final corner, which actually is the final corner, funnily enough. As we head on to the final lap, you'll see the yellow flag with the black cross out to start the last lap of the race. There's more lap traffic. Will this intervene with Will Howarth's plan? It looks like it won't there, because he went around the outside. That was a well done move, and it looks like actually Josh Birkins has been held up by lap traffic, as there's a 3-second gap between him and his brother. But Will Howarth still leads the way in this final lap, and he's extended track limits on the last lap, but so has Matt and Josh Birkins straight behind him. I mean, they're using all the track and some, but it's quite a tricky position with the sun and with so much lap traffic around them, so it's completely understandable. But we're in the last lap. We're heading round to the final corners now. He has a wee look behind him to see that nobody is behind him, and he comes round this hairpin to then come to the fast left-hander, knee down, flat on the floor, full commitment through this final corner. It's a sweeping right-hander to see the checker flag and to see his first win in the first race of this weekend.
Yeah, great performance there by Will Howarth. Another dominant win. That's 2 from 2 in 2 different classes there. Brilliant stuff. And well, you were talking about, the tinted visors of the Birkin brothers. Well, I love the clear visor of Will Howarth because it just enables you to see into the rider's mind. You can see what they're feeling. And all I was getting from that was just pure determination the whole way through the race. He wanted to win that, and he took it in some style. He caps off a brilliant day's worth of racing and kicks off his weekend with an absolute bang. 2 wins in 2 categories in 2 races. Not a bad going there from Will Howarth at all, and he continues his winning streak that he's got going in the senior mini motos. That is now the last 6 races out of all of the 7 races that we've had so far that he's taken victory in. So great job there from him, for Will Howarth, as he brings it into the pits to undoubtedly celebrate. But of course, no hard feelings for the rest of everyone else. It's a real tight-knit community here in the senior mini-moto paddock. It's Will Howarth who takes the win from Matt Birkin in P2. Josh Birkin is P3 with Craig Ashall in P4. Chris Yeomans comes home in P5. Nick Bennett is P6. Reece Gentry is 7th. Callum White is 8th. And then rounding out the top 10, it's Neil Skiller and Elliot Sell. There we have it. That concludes our day's worth of racing. Our Saturday, the race 1's here at round 3 of the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championship here at Ellough Park. And well, that just sets up an even better day's racing for tomorrow, doesn't it, Lewis? Because we've seen some fantastic action throughout the qualifying, the practice and the race that we've got. We've got race 2s and 3s to look forward to tomorrow, and it's going to be brilliant. I can already tell.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, one thing, as we said right at the start of the show, during qualifyings, is that with Fab, your qualifying position is your position for all 3 races. So although, for example, Ronnie Harris did crash out today, he still has as good of an opportunity tomorrow as he did today, although he did crash out. So it leaves the championship still some hope for him, and it's not over yet because we're only at round 3 and we've still got 2 races to come tomorrow. Exactly.
So of course, make sure you're tuning in to watch all of those. Thank you very much for joining us here for all of the Saturday's action from round 3 of the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championships here at Ellough Park, East Anglia's premier outdoor karting circuit. And as Lewis said, make sure that you're tuning in tomorrow for all of the race 2 and race 3 action that we've got coming your way. It's going to be an absolute scorcher once again, and hopefully with the wind dropping a little bit lower, it'll be even closer, even faster, and even more intense. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.